Chapter 2972. Yi Qing Luo's entire body was shrouded in a bloody aura. Coupled with her domineering and majestic aura, it made one extremely shocked. Fox Saint Law didn't even have a chance to dodge. And there was no way to dodge. If she dodged, she would have to expend the last bit of energy in her body. Then what awaited her was possibly her body exploding to death or a backlash. Not dodging. Yi Qing Luo's move was obviously filled with icy cold murderous intent. If she was hit, she would definitely die. Fox Saint Law pressed against her chest as her brain roared furiously in her heart. You? Don't tell me you really want to see me die. However, there was no response from that cold and gloomy voice. In just a few breaths, Yi Qing Luo's attack landed head-on. Fox Saint Law's eyes were scarlet red and her strong survival instinct made her follow her own instincts as she quickly adjusted the profound energy in her body, gathering it into her legs. The scorching feeling instantly scorched Fox Saint Law's heart. A burst of exploding feeling swelled her limbs and bones. Ah! A sharp scream came out from Fox Saint Law's mouth. Just when the Fox Saint Law thought that he was going to be forced to explode and die from the swelling pain, the Fox Saint Law suddenly stopped. Suddenly, a warm current spread from the bottom of her heart. Like a source of warmth, it slowly soothed the waves of scorching feeling. Under this warm current, Fox Saint Law's swelling pain, which was on the verge of exploding, finally eased down. Fox Saint Law was stunned for a moment by this sudden change. But very quickly, she regained her senses as she raised her eyes and looked at Yi Qing Luo vigilantly. Boom! A huge explosion exploded in the sky. The pitch-black sky suddenly surged with endless cold air. As another bolt of lightning fell. It was as if a huge hole had been torn open in the pitch-black night sky. In the dark night sky, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The icy cold air circulated in mid-air. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was also attracted by this shocking sound. She frowned as she looked at the lightning flashing and thunder roaring in the sky. Could it be that the people from the upper realm had sensed that the lower realm's peace was disrupted and specially came to stop it? After all, Hell Palace, that was a powerhouse from the Earth realm. The people from the Earth realm had interfered in the lower realm's matters. That would violate the balance between the realms. He was also looking down on the authority of the sovereigns. But everything was not as what Yi Qing Luo had expected. The rumbling thunder and lightning in the sky did not strike the people of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, nor did it strike the Fox Saint technique. He just kept tearing at the light on his body, dyeing the night sky. Yi Qing Luo's heart had an indescribable feeling of uneasiness, which was attacking her. In less than the time it takes to burn half an incense stick. Suddenly, a ray of white light, like a beam of light, shot toward the sky where the lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A deafening roar rang out. The white light disappeared into the lightning and thunder. Then the sky returned to its tranquility. It was as if the lightning and thunder from before had never appeared. This scene caused everyone to be dumbstruck. They were truly unable to understand exactly what this wave of lightning and thunder represented. Everyone stared at the sky that had calmed down. Because of this, he did not discover it. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo's entire face had already turned pale. She gripped the glowing flame fan tightly in her hand and curled up tightly. Her pearly white teeth bit her lower lip tightly, as though she was enduring something. If one took a closer look, they would be able to see that her body was trembling slightly. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyelashes very, very hard. Her heart seemed as though it had been knocked hard by something. She didn't see it wrongly. The direction where the white light appeared. Chapter 2973. That white light, what was it? The ex-saintess has ascended. Faintly, Yi Qing Luo heard an extremely shocked voice. Yi Qing Luo's body moved as her gaze speedily followed the direction of the voice and looked over. Next to the chaotic battlefield, Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao were supporting each other, while Fourth Elder Miao was walking at the very front. Great Elder Miao raised his head and stared at the spot where the white light had disappeared. He said, "The former holy maiden has ascended. The Miao tribe is completely hopeless." Second Elder Miao immediately raised his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo. When he realized that Yi Qing Luo's line of sight was also directed towards him, Second Elder Miao opened his mouth, looking as if he wanted to say something. "What are you looking at?" Fourth Elder Miao's face instantly sank when he noticed Second Elder Miao's gaze, and he swiftly turned around to slap Second Elder Miao's face. "Do you still expect that rascal to save you? You want her to save you after what you did to her just now?" Fourth Elder Miao's slap caused Second Elder Miao to lose his balance. Even though he was supporting the Great Elder Miao, The slap still sent him stumbling back several steps before landing heavily on the ground. Even Great Elder Miao was dragged along. He staggered a few steps back. His expression was cold as he shouted, "Fourth brother, what are you doing? I am teaching you the rules of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness." Fourth Elder Miao didn't bother to hide anymore. He looked at the two people in front of him with disdain. "Now, you are the dogs of the Palace of Darkness and I have a higher position than you. Don't try to show off in front of me with the rules of the Miao tribe." Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao were trembling with rage. However, no one dared to refute Fourth Elder Miao's words. This look of compromise. It was obvious that he had suffered a great loss at the hands of Fourth Elder Miao. Whereas Yi Qing Luo, who was not too far away, heard their conversation clearly. Her eyes instantly darkened. The spy of the Miao tribe, it was Fourth Elder Miao. He told the dark secluded palace about the situation of the Miao tribe and told them to surround and attack the Miao tribe. It was Fourth Elder Miao. It was this Fourth Elder Miao, putting Xian in danger? Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed as a trace of biting cold murderous intent flashed past. The place where the former Saintess ascended is in the Saintess yard. The Overlord must also be there. Immediately bring people to break into the Saintess yard, find the Overlord and kill him directly. Fourth Elder Miao hadn't noticed that Yi Qing Luo had already placed all her attention on him. He continued to give orders to Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao. Fourth Elder Miao had always been oppressed by the two of them because he was the fourth elder of the Miao clan. At this moment he finally had a chance to retaliate. He was so pleased with himself that he didn't notice any other details. When this sentence entered Yi Qing Luo's ears, Yi Qing Luo's expression changed completely. She raised her eyes and immediately looked in the direction of the Saintess yard. This group of people, their target was indeed Dmo Xian. Fourth Elder Miao instructed Miao Da and Miao Air to kill Dmo Xian once they found him. These words obviously meant that he was certain that the current Dmo Xian had no ability to retaliate at all. In other words, Fourth Elder Miao was completely certain that Dmo Xian had been poisoned. So he specially took this chance to kill Dmo Xian. This thought made Yi Qing Luo's heart twitch fiercely. She didn't have any chance to hesitate. Chapter 2974. Yi Qing Luo, have you forgotten that this palace mistress is still here? Just as Yi Qing Luo was about to reveal her back without any worries, a complacent and vicious voice suddenly rang behind her. What followed was an aggressive fluctuation of qi, stirring up stormy waves in the air. Bam! Bringing along the power of the black qi wave, it landed heavily on the young lady's delicate back. The young lady's slender body flew out in an arc in midair. A red remnant shadow flew out horizontally. Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi and the others' green veins popped out as they hurriedly rushed towards the direction where the red robe flew out. Qi Yin flew in a circle. That red figure fell steadily into the soft phoenix feathers. Shi Ju followed closely as it stood by the side of Qi Yan. Its huge leopard head arched towards Qi Yan's back. Stinky leopard. Don't dirty this sacred beast's phoenix feathers. Qi Yan didn't change its sharp and unkind nature as it arrogantly raised its head and used its mouth to spread its wings. Shi Ju gave a low "woo," as though it was feeling wronged. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest also rushed over. They raised their heads as they looked at the two huge war beasts on the horizon. Seeing Qi Yan catching Yi Qing Luo, they heaved a sigh of relief, but when they recalled that Yi Qing Luo had suffered from Fox Sacred Technique's palm earlier, they were extremely worried. Qi Yan, let us take a look at Qing Luo's condition. Yan Xiaoyi opened her mouth anxiously. However, the arrogant Qi Yan used its high and mighty fiery red eyes to sweep them a glance as it sneered. This sacred beast's master, this sacred beast is able to protect her. You're just a burden. Cough cough cough. On Qi Yan's back, that petite figure suddenly sat up. She covered her mouth as blood seeped out from the gaps between her fingers. An exquisite little face was extremely pale. Qing Luo. The few of them cried out worriedly in unison. Yi Qing Luo held onto Qi Yan's phoenix feathers as she propped herself up as her eyes stared coldly in front. Fox Sacred Technique stood there arrogantly as he laughed complacently. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. She was certain. His move just now had definitely landed on Fox Saint Technique's body. Regardless of whether the Fox Saint Technique had used the power in her body that did not belong to her to dodge, or to completely withstand her attack. The end of Fox Saint Technique. They would all die. Why? Could Fox Saintess still stand there? Earlier, that overbearing and dense profound energy that struck her body. He didn't seem to be hurt at all. Not only did the Fox Saint Law not die, He even took the chance when she was worried about Dmo Xian. Gave her a slap. Yiqing Luo, do you really think that your judgment is 100% correct? What a pity. This palace master won't die. The one who will die will only be you. Fox Saint La laughed arrogantly, his eyes already filled with a raging storm. While they were talking, all of a sudden, a wave of dense and powerful energy surged out from Fox Saint La's body, as though it could attract all the air in the surroundings, turning it into a surging wave of air. That was the chill of absolute death. This made Yiqing Luo's heart sink a little. She pressed her hand to her chest. She had received a solid blow from Fox Saint La's palm strike. This palm strike had caused her internal injury, which wasn't light at all. She held her breath tightly as she adjusted the profound qi in her body, circulating it around her injury. Following that, she speedily fed herself a few pills to adjust her internal injury. Chapter 2975. Xiao Yi. Yiqing Luo's palm lit up with a raging flame as she panted heavily, using the mercenary group token between them to communicate. You guys bring Qi Yan and Shi Ju over to the place where the white light appeared earlier. What about you? Yan Xiaoyi replied quickly. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. Fox Saint Technique will not let me leave. Their target is Xian. Quickly go over. Don't let them find Xian. Miao Ji ascended. This meant that Miao Yi was the only one left in the Saintess Yard. Although Chi Chi was guarding the place. But, the so-called person from the underworld palace of the Gloomy Darkness Palace had yet to be confirmed, so no one knew who he was. In any case, the Saintess Institute must not be disturbed. Whereas Yiqing Luo used the mercenary group's token to communicate, which made Yan Xiaoyi and the others stunned. Following that, after hearing Yiqing Luo's words clearly, his heart was also in his throat. Dmo Xian was in the Holy Maiden Institute? Based on Dmo Xian's ability, was there a need for Yiqing Luo to worry? Unless, everyone recalled Yiqing Luo's soulless state not long ago. His heart couldn't help but thump violently. Dmo Xian was definitely dispelling the venom. At this moment, if Dmo Xian was found by the people from the Nether Palace, the consequences were unthinkable. Yan Xiaoyi knew how important Dmo Xian was to Yiqing Luo. She did not hesitate any longer. He whispered to the people around him, "Follow me." She immediately ran in the direction of the Saintess Yard. At the same time, Yiqing Luo also gave Qi Yan and Shi Ju an order. Qi Yan glanced in the direction of the Saintess Yard and snorted coldly. This holy beast is not interested in protecting those old, weak, sick and disabled people. Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to joke around with the medicine. Her eyes were gloomy. If anything goes wrong over there, you better be prepared to go back to sleep. After that, she didn't even look at Qi Yan. Waving the devouring flame fan, the flames on his body swayed like a fire elf in the wind, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws as he attacked. The target of Netherworld Palace was Dmo Xian. The Fox Saint Technique would definitely not let her leave. She wanted to rush to the Saintess courtyard. He could only kill Fox Saint Law. Although she didn't know what method the Fox Saint Technique had used to be able to block her move just now. But, the foundation of the Fox Saint Technique was there. Can have a good luck once. However, it did not mean that she could continue her good luck. Fox Saint Fa seemed as though she hadn't expected that after Yiqing Luo had completely taken one palm from her, she still had some leeway to retaliate. The complacent smile on her face instantly froze. Yiqing Luo, how could you? That palm just now, the Fox Saint Technique had already exhausted all of its profound energy. No one knew, just as she was about to explode and die, that warm current not only soothed her restless profound qi, but it also soothed her restless profound qi. Slowly, the power that didn't belong to her was extracted from her body. Pull away. This meant that her body no longer had to suffer the pain of exploding to death or the backlash. But once he withdrew, her crippled body would be so weak that she had no way to go against Yiqing Luo. Because of this, just now when the power was withdrawn, Fox Saint Technique exhausted its last bit of energy and attacked Yiqing Luo, attempting to take away her life. That kind of power. Not only did it not cause Yiqing Luo to die or be seriously injured, it even allowed Yiqing Luo to counterattack once again. And she didn't even have the energy to evade. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with anxiety at this moment. Her mind was filled with thoughts of killing the Fox Saint Technique and rushing over to Dmo Xian's side. Chapter 2976. Huff! The raging hurricane stirred up everything around it. The raging flame wind blades shot out from Yiqing Luo's hands, forming a gorgeous sharp edge in midair. That raging flame wind blade was like a huge bloody mouth, as though it wanted to tear Fox St. Law's entire body into its stomach. Between Fox St. Law's pupils, patches of raging flames spread out. Her expression was twisted and sinister, and from her throat, there was an uncontrollable howl of unwillingness. Clang! Suddenly a black ray brushed past that wind blade which was about to land on Fox St. Law. The black ray was sharp as it collided with that wind blade. Instantly the air seemed to be compressed by something. The entire space seemed as though it was about to shatter. The raging wind howled, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Everything in the Miao tribe had turned into a piece of ruins. Looks like it's not that your luck is good, but there's someone who has been using his own life to protect you. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, a biting cold glint, as it swept past that sudden black ray. Others couldn't tell. She could absolutely tell. That black ray, wasn't it the profound yin qi which came from Wolf St. Law? It was Wolf St. Law. That person who loved Fox St. Law, made use of Yi Qingqian's corpse, to revive Fox St. Law. Originally, she thought that Wolf St. Law had used the resurrection secret art, causing his body to deteriorate, and was unable to stop Fox St. Law's actions tonight. She had not expected. Wolf St. Law was actually in the dark, silently protecting Fox St. Law. This feeling was really touching. Brother Wolf. Fox St. Law, at the moment of life and death, realized who was the source of the energy which was blocking in front of her, protecting her. Fox St. Law's face instantly revealed an ecstatic smile. A black figure gradually appeared in front of Fox St. Law. When Fox St. Law saw that muscular and imposing figure in front of her, the smile on her lips became even wider. Her arms encircled the man's waist. I knew it. It's you who are protecting me? Who are? Wolf St. Law's voice was slightly hoarse. He raised his hand, holding the soft little hand on his waist. He could feel the woman's soft and delicate body behind him, as well as that familiar fragrance. The Wolf Saint technique closed its eyes in satisfaction. However, this kind of warmth, in this kind of place, in this kind of situation was not suitable. Yiqing Luo didn't have the time to look at their warmth. Holy Wolf technique. Yiqing Luo's voice was chilly as though it could reverberate faintly. It's you who helped Fox Sacred Technique to block that move, and also helped Fox Sacred Technique to expel that energy which didn't belong to her body. Just now, Fox St. Law was able to be safe and sound in that kind of situation. Not only did he not explode and die, he could even turn the tables and give her a slap. Yiqing Luo had been guessing the reason behind it. After seeing the Wolf Saint technique, they understood. With the Holy Wolf technique, how could he just watch as something happened to Fox Saint technique? However, in the past, the strength of the Wolf Saint technique was inferior to hers. Not to mention now, after using the Resurrection Secret technique, what kind of strength could he still have? To be able to block that move of hers. He also expelled the evil energy from the Fox Saint technique's body. It should be very difficult. Unless the Wolf Saint Law had made a deal with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Or perhaps the Wolf Saint Law forcefully displayed the Dark Secret technique. This thought made Yiqing Luo squint her eyes as she stared at the Wolf Saint Law in detail, sizing him up. Her gaze had only touched that not unfamiliar face of the Wolf Saint Law. Chapter 2977. TSK. I have to praise you, you're indeed an infatuated man. Yiqing Luo's smile was icy cold as her lips twitched. For the Fox Saint skill, you don't even intend to take your own life. Wolf Saint Law's breathing tightened. His hand which was holding Fox Saint Law's hand subconsciously tightened. When Fox Saint Law heard that, she suddenly felt flustered and wanted to retract her hand anxiously. Brother Wolf, what does she mean? What, don't want your own life? But before she could retract her hand, she was caught by Wolf Saint Law. For some reason, Fox Saint Fa always felt that the strong and powerful hand that usually held her hand was soft at this moment, as if she could not use any strength at all. She just wants to disturb our hearts, don't listen to her. Wolf Saint Law's gentle voice answered Fox Saint Law. Such gentleness. It was Yiqing Luo's first time seeing it. Even if it was towards Yiqingqian. She had never seen Wolf Saint Law so gentle before. Was this the difference between a true love and a substitute? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past Wolf Saint Law's pale white face. Although Wolf Saint Law tried his best to restrain himself. But everyone could see that. Between Wolf Saint Law's brows, the creases were tightly knitted, and the cold sweat kept oozing out. It could be seen that Wolf Saint Law's current body was already in a terrible state. Right now he was just forcing himself. It seemed that in the actions of protecting the Fox Saint technique again and again, it had already caused Wolf Saint Law's body to become more and more dispirited. Fox Saint Law also felt that something was wrong with Wolf Saint Law. Hearing his words, she felt even more flustered. "Brother Wolf, did you block the attack for me and hurt yourself?" Wolf Saint Law panted, as though it was difficult for him to speak. "Don't let your imagination run wild, I'm fine. Brother Wolf." Fox Saint Law frowned, her face was filled with panic. At this moment she looked like a girl next door. There wasn't a single bit of that malevolent and terrifying look. Looking at the two of them talking, Yiqing Luo's palm wind moved, a cold murderous intent appeared in between her brows. "What do you think your appearance can change? You can protect her the first time, the second time, but can you protect her the third time, the fourth time?" Following Yiqing Luo's voice, Yiqing Luo spun the glower flame fan and it had already turned into a sharp weapon as she pressed forward. "Don't fight. Anyone who stands in my way will die." The Wolf Saint technique grabbed the Fox Saint technique's hand tightly, and the mysterious yin qi in his body followed the palm wind and split it apart. The two forces only collided in midair for several breaths of time. Yiqing Luo's attack had obviously gained the upper hand as she directly slashed a gap and dispersed that ball of profound yin qi. And the Wolf Saint technique took advantage of this opportunity. Pulling the Fox Saint technique, he quickly retreated. In just a few steps, he had already returned to the back of the enormous, dinosaur-like magical beast. "Yiqing Luo, are you very worried about Sacred Maiden Institute?" Although the Wolf Xingfa's hoarse voice sounded unstable, the ruthlessness in his tone was evident. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled violently as the icy chill in her eyes deepened. "You want to go there? You want to stop Gloomy Palace?" Wolf Saint Law chuckled, "But it's too late." Yiqing Luo's expression congealed instantly. She pursed her lips tightly, not daring to open her mouth easily. She was very clear about the Wolf Saint Law's sinister nature. There was a possibility that he was intentionally bluffing her. Chapter 2978. Yiqing Luo's fingers curled up tightly as she gripped the glower flame fan tightly, suppressing the surging emotions in her heart to maintain her balance. Although the appearance of this saint magic can't change anything, but this saint magic has brought you a gift. Wolf Saint Magic didn't care if Yiqing Luo admitted it or not. Between his brows was a deathly stillness. "Gift." These two words made Yiqing Luo's alarm went off. In her mind, three words instantly surfaced: hell, prison, residence. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped hard. She instinctively turned her head, wanting to escape. But everything was already too late. Just at the instant when her footsteps moved, a hurricane filled with vigorous energy shot downward swiftly. The swirling sand directly blocked her path. Following that was a gust of sharp murderous aura, directly pressuring Yiqing Luo's face. The raging wind kept howling furiously. Yiqing Luo's body at this moment was exactly the same as when Fox Saint Magic's profound energy exploded, unable to move at all. As though both her legs were shackled and bound. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes instantly froze. The chilliness between her brows also magnified at this moment. She forcefully held on to her last breath, as her fingers pressed hard on the glower flame fan. Swoosh, 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 even with the glower flame fan's protective shield. That surging energy. It directly tore a few holes on Yiqing Luo's robe. There were even some red robes, dancing along the raging wind. Strong? So strong. Yiqing Luo's pupils slowly congealed. The expression on her face at this moment became extremely grave. The current battlefield was no longer something which those ordinary secluded palaces' disciples, or Miao tribesmen, could interfere in. They could only quietly observe the changes, waiting for any chance to escape. The surrounding gravel swept up the storm as though it was going to swallow everything around completely. Thick sand and stones surged. Great Elder Miao and Second Elder Miao looked at the corpses on the ground, and the Miao tribesmen who were huddled in a corner, shivering. Their hearts were in extreme pain. Yet now, even they themselves were being controlled by someone else. Second Elder Miao clenched his fist tightly and covered his chest. He wiped the blood off his lips and said, "Fourth Elder, you are lying to us. Even if they join the Palace of Darkness, they will not let the Miao tribe go." It was not only the Miao people. Even the disciples of the Dark Abyss Palace who came here today. Those so-called Vice Palace Masters, holy techniques and leaders. He had no intention of sparing their lives. They were from the beginning. He wanted to kill everyone here. The sudden and powerful energy permeated the entire Miao tribe. Even the previously complacent fourth Elder Meow cowered at this moment. Hearing second Elder Meow's question, fourth Elder Meow's heart became even more flustered. Naturally, he could tell as well. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness did not intend to let anyone off. He had also been deceived by the people from the Palace of Darkness. But now he was being questioned by Meowda and Meow Air. He couldn't reveal even the slightest bit of abnormality. Otherwise, even though the two of them had lost a lot of power, but if they joined hands they would still be able to deal with him. Fourth Elder Meow snorted coldly with a gloomy expression. In the Meow tribe, that bunch of trash, if they can't survive, then it's because they are too weak. I persuaded you to join the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, that's on account of our past relationship, to spare your lives. If you want to die together with the Meow tribe trash, then go ahead. Chapter 2979. Grand Elder Meow and Second Elder Meow were originally certain that Fourth Elder Meow was intentionally lying to them. But looking at Fourth Elder Meow's look. But it didn't look like he was lying. Especially when they heard that Fourth Elder Meow asked them to join the Palace of Darkness, that was to let them live on. The expression on their faces eased up slightly. Fourth Elder Meow, who had followed the both of them for several decades, could tell what they were thinking from their expressions. Fourth Elder Meow also eased up his tone as he suppressed his voice and pretended to be mysterious as he got closer to them. You've also seen it clearly. Palace of Darkness motive today isn't because of the Meow tribe. If you want to occupy a certain position in Palace of Darkness, then we have to help Palace of Darkness to achieve their motive. Grand Elder Meow immediately looked at the gorgeous young lady whose entire body was encircled with red glow, as though she was enveloped in a blazing fire. The young lady's eyes were icy cold as the energy she released was majestic and intimidating. He couldn't help but shivered. If we can settle Yiqing Luo, then there's no need for Palace of Darkness to take action. Who said Palace of Darkness motive is Yiqing Luo? Fourth Elder Meow had an impatient look as he interrupted Grand Elder Meow's words. Haven't you realized Yiqing Luo's bunch of brothers, and those two terrifying war pets, have all disappeared? Grand Elder Meow and Second Elder Meow's eyes flashed as they immediately looked around. Indeed, they didn't discover those figures. But we also don't know Palace of Darkness motive and what those people are going to do. How can we help Palace of Darkness? Second Elder Meow's white brows creased tightly as he asked. Let's follow Yiqing Luo's bunch of brothers over and see what they are going to do, then stop them. Fourth Elder Meow narrowed his eyes as his lips curled upwards in a sneaky manner. He raised his hand as he pointed towards the path which Yan Xiaoyi and the rest had left on. As long as we stop them, then we will know what Palace of Darkness motive is. By then, as long as there's a chance, we'll help Palace of Darkness to complete their mission. By then, do you think? Whatever we want, Palace of Darkness will not give it to us. This. Recalling how he had been tricked by Fourth Elder Meow earlier, Great Elder Meow hesitated when he heard his suggestion. Fourth Elder Meow changed his expression and sneered. He turned around and left. Since you're not willing, I'll follow you myself. Don't say that I didn't warn you. After he finished speaking, he followed the direction that Yan Xiaoyi and the rest had left in without turning back. Great Elder Meow and Second Elder Meow looked at each other. 5 fingers, clenched and loosened and clenched again. After repeating this process for a long time, he gritted his teeth and followed behind. Now they had no other choice. Whereas at this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was contending against that valiant energy, had already turned pale and her body, which was suspended in midair, was on the verge of collapse. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried about Dmo Xian and was struck by the Fox Saint technique, Yiqing Luo wasn't in such a sorry state. As expected of an interesting prey, in the sky, a cold voice sounded. It was as if it was coming from all directions. Just listening to that voice, everyone felt their scalps turning numb as chills ran down their spines. Even if it was Yiqing Luo, when she heard that voice, she couldn't help but frown. Her petite body gradually tensed up. That person. Chapter 2980. Boom, boom, boom. The deafening sound of the profound wave reverberated in the air. The ground, which had already turned into waste, along with the vibration, continuously cracked open again. With a burst of shaking, the earth quaked and the mountains swayed. Yiqing Luo was forced to squint her eyes by this force. In the midst of the hazy air waves, Yiqing Luo suddenly saw a tall and sturdy figure not far away following the profound wave. That person's figure was sturdy, dressed in a black robe, covering his entire body. Following the surrounding whirlwind, his robe fluttered, making a fluttering sound. The most shocking thing was his entire body was shrouded in a thick layer of evil qi, wrapping him tightly within. Yiqing Luo only felt the azure dew bracelet on her wrist boiling hot. Beside her ear came old man Song's hurried voice, "It's him? The evil qi from the underworld palace. Lass, you're not his opponent, quickly leave. Think of a way to leave." Underworld palace. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled, her 5 fingers tightly clasped the glower flame fan, trying hard to stabilize her state of mind, forcing herself to open her eyes, sizing up that person. But when both her eyes completely fixed on that person, Yiqing Luo instantly felt a cold big hand, penetrating her neck, directly clutching her heart, making her heart suddenly feel a sharp pain. Her throat seemed to have lost the strength to breathe. This was from the Earth realm, the power of the underworld palace? As that person neared, the chilly wind around them became more and more violent. Yiqing Luo's torn robe poured in the cold wind. 3,000 fine black hair, dancing wildly on her shoulders. Swish! Only to hear the sound of a figure passing by in the air. Another blink of an eye. The cold and gloomy breath was already close at hand, assaulting her nose. That person and Yiqing Luo was only 3 steps away. Close. That black evil qi which enveloped that man was hazy, faintly discernible. Vaguely Yiqing Luo vaguely saw that person's face. That was a what kind of face? Even if it was just a blur. Yiqing Luo's impression of that face was still extremely deep. Facial features were still considered regular. If one only saw half of his face, he could be considered handsome. But if one looked at the face as a whole, that was simply shocking. Half of the face, from the forehead to the chin, had a deep gash. That gaping wound could still be vaguely seen, a ghastly wound. It was extremely terrifying and disgusting. From his forehead to his eyes, there was a mass of blood-red substance covering his face. If one took a closer look, they would have the illusion that an eyeball had popped out from the mass of blood. In addition, the man's eyes. It was a pair of eyes that made her body stiffen, as if she was in an ice house, unable to move. The chilly aura that assaulted their nostrils was accompanied by an austere aura. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted a few times. This person's aura was too majestic. Even she was not intimidated by him. If he took another step closer, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. He wanted to move, but he couldn't. "Heh!" A chuckle escaped from the man's mouth. The cold voice seemed to be mocking something. He just looked at her quietly. Amidst the black fog, Yiqing Luo could see that the way that man looked at her was as if he had seen his delightful prey. Not bad, worthy for me to take action personally." That man's lips curled up coldly as he laughed lowly. Chapter 2981. People from the Earth Realm? Just spitting out these 4 words, Yiqing Luo already felt endless pressure, filling her lips and tongue. She shut her eyes, took a deep breath and continued, "You came to Nirvana Realm, aren't you afraid that the balance historian will arrest you?" That person's brows rose. The scar on his face as well as that red mark also started to squirm. "Since you're able to see through this seat's identity." His tone was obviously delighted. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly, forcing herself to calm down, fixing her sight on him. "Hell Palace's people, coming to bully people from the lower realm, aren't you afraid of sullying Hell Palace's prestige?" That person's eyes lit up as though a red ball of blood seeped out a ray of light. "You know this seat? You, this young lass, know quite a lot." He laughed sinisterly. "On the account that you've won my heart, this seat allows you to say out your master's name, after I hand you over to the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace. This seat will then let your master take revenge for you." These words could only be described with the word arrogant. That person obviously didn't put Yiqing Luo in his eyes. Instead, he directly set his sights on Yiqing Luo's master. In the eyes of that person from Hell Palace, a lower realm young lady, how could she be so powerful? She even knew about the Earth Realm, Hell Palace and other news. There must be some expert behind her, there must be some existence. This young lass was chosen by the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace. Then he would treat this young lass's master as his next prey. Ha! Yiqing Luo snorted lightly as the gaze she shot towards that person was filled with contempt. "I thought Hell Palace was filled with talents, an existence beyond the 3 realms. I'd not expect it. It's merely a lackey of Seclusion Palace." As she said that, she pretended to make a disdainful sound. Although Yiqing Luo's face had a calm and disdainful look. But her fingers, which were gripping the glower flame fan, had already betrayed her inner thoughts. Facing this person in front of her, the aura from him was simply too terrifying, especially after her words were spoken. This person's emotions and that bone-chilling gaze became even more horrifying. She was betting. They were a bunch of lunatics who had gone crazy for evil arts. This group of lunatics, even if they were a group of lunatics that were neither human nor ghost. But he definitely still had his pride. Moreover, their self-esteem was even stronger than that of ordinary people. This group of unrestrained lunatics. Even the people of the Earth domain were terrified of him. Even the historian of balance was aware of the existence of this group of lunatics in this organization, but he still sat back and did nothing. From this, it could be seen that the group of madmen from the underworld palace were people that even those from the Earth realm did not wish to provoke. This kind of lunatic was usually the most free and unrestrained person. He especially couldn't allow others to humiliate him. Not to mention, comparing him to someone else's lackey. To Madman this was a great humiliation. That person's expression proved that Yi Qing Luo's gamble was right. That person's gaze was like a death god, locking onto Yi Qing Luo. His eyes were cold and indifferent. If it wasn't for the fact that Hell Palace owed the Mistress of Seclusion Palace a favor, why would I, Xia Ba, possibly come down to the lower realms? That person bellowed furiously, as a frenzied murderous intent surged in his eyes. He suddenly raised his hand. The hand under his sleeve was extremely slender, like a withered twig. The most terrifying thing was... Chapter 2982. It was just a glance. Yi Qing Luo felt her scalp turning numb. That strange hand quickly reached out to her. Her heart felt as though it was suffocating as it was squeezed. She tried her best to raise her breath, trying to avoid that Hell Palace's man who was Xia Ba's attack. But she hadn't moved. She only felt a cold breeze brushing past her cheek. In front of her, a figure appeared, blocking her firmly behind his back. And that withered palm which was surrounded by black chi directly grabbed that figure's neck, hanging that figure in his hand. Yi Qing Luo's body suddenly stiffened. The scene in front of her made her slightly stunned. That bamboo-colored figure was tall and slender, swaying in her eyes. Someone helped her to block Xia Ba's attack. Replaced her to be strangled by Xia Ba. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. When she saw clearly that tall figure's face in front of her. Her face instantly turned pale, her lips trembled slightly as she blurted out, "Gu? Young Sect Master Gu." The person who blocked in front of her, who replaced her. He was South Continent's young sect master, Gu Jingyu. Why? Why was Gu Jingyu still here? Early in the morning, after the King of Venomous Worms' inheritance ceremony had ended, hadn't most of the powerhouse's representatives left the Miao tribe? As South Continent's young sect master, shouldn't he have left earlier? And why did he run out to save her? Could it be that he couldn't tell that this lunatic called Xia Ba was so powerful? That he wasn't afraid of any powerhouses in Nirvana realm? Even if he was South Continent's young sect master, Xia Ba would absolutely not show any mercy. Qing Luo. Gu Jingyu painfully called out Yi Qing Luo's name. That suffocating feeling made his face flushed red and green-purple as his eyes protruded out. After he opened his mouth, the words were squeezed out from the slits of his teeth with much difficulty. Go. Quickly go. Gu Jingyu's hands grabbed Xia Ba's hand, as the strength of his struggle became weaker and weaker. You. Xia Ba's gaze fell on Gu Jingyu's face, and he immediately frowned as if he wanted to say something. The torn wound as well as the blood-like rolling mark on his eye slowly wriggled. It was extremely horrifying and disgusting. Evil tyrant. Yi Qing Luo saw that Xia Ba's target had turned towards Gu Jingyu and immediately cried out sharply, "Your target is me, he's merely someone unimportant." Xia Ba's vision shifted from Gu Jingyu's face to Yi Qing Luo. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and leave, I will be fine. Gu Jingyu's hands were clutching onto Xia Ba with all his might, attempting to make Xia Ba's attention to himself, so that Yi Qing Luo could gain some time to escape. Looking at that face which had almost turned purple from suffocation, Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes trembled fiercely. She gripped the gourd flame fan tightly, then borrowed the strength of the deep water ring. A dense aura lingered between her palms. Without any hesitation, her eyes were icy cold as she fiercely attacked Xia Ba's hand which was raised up. Overestimating yourself, little prey. Xia Ba sneered as he didn't continue to make things difficult for Gu Jingyu. His 5 fingers loosened. He casually waved his sleeves towards the direction where Yi Qing Luo was attacking from. Black-colored qi, emitting a piercingly cold profound ray, headed towards Yiqing Luo's face. Powerful profound energy covered the sky and earth as it pressed downwards. That bone-chilling cold. Chapter 2983. Hell Palace's madman. So strong. It looked like he just casually waved his sleeves. But he was able to bring along such a powerful profound energy. Yiqing Luo had originally suffered an internal injury from Fox Saint's technique. Following that was Evil Tyrant's counterattack. She couldn't hold on any longer. Her petite body was sent flying by the force of the backlash, until she flew more than 10 meters away. Yiqing Luo then managed to stabilize her figure. The loose strands of hair on her forehead stuck to her beautiful face. Her face was pale, pink lips were tightly pursed and her hair was in a mess. Obviously she was in a sorry state. Yiqing Luo panted heavily for a few times and following that, her vision immediately shot towards Gu Jingyu who had been released by Evil Tyrant and was lying limply on the ground. At this moment, Gu Jingyu was propped on the ground with one hand as he panted heavily. He, who had always been gentle and elegant, was in a sorry state at this moment. As though he noticed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Gu Jingyu panted as he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. When his four eyes met with Yiqing Luo, that pale and frail face surfaced a faint, warm smile. That smile made Yiqing Luo's heart had a sour feeling. Her 5 fingers slowly curled up. She knew that Gu Jingyu liked her. And right from the start she had clearly rejected Gu Jingyu. Obviously there wasn't any deep interaction between them previously. But she had not expected. Gu Jingyu could actually disregard his own life for her. Even at this moment. To make her feel at ease. He even forced a smile to express that he was fine. This man. He was really an extremely gentle person. Perhaps it was because their gazes were too obvious. Evil Tyrant's eyes were filled with interest when he saw that Yiqing Luo wasn't seriously injured after his counterattack. Following Yiqing Luo's gaze he looked towards Gu Jingyu. That evil cold and treacherous gaze flashed. The interest contained in it was overflowing as it became more and more intense. The next moment he raised his hand once again. A gust of evil qi sprang out from his palm. Only to see that ball of evil qi quickly twining around Gu Jingyu's body. Ah! Gu Jingyu had yet to catch his breath when his arms were restrained by a gust of energy. Evil Tyrant raised his hand. Gu Jingyu's body was also directly dragged to the horizon by the evil aura. Evil Tyrant. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as she stared at Xiaba. To deal with a lower realm like me, do you need to use an unimportant person to threaten me? Is this the power of the Hell Palace? Xiaba laughed coldly. His eyes were filled with ridicule and madness. He tilted his head and grinned. His smile was sinister and cold. In addition to that face, it brought about a strange and terrifying feeling. He looked like a madman. Is this your little lover? From the looks of it, compared to you, I'm far inferior. Xiaba cast a disdainful glance at Gu Jingyu. Little girl, your taste is really bad. What has this got to do with you? Yiqing Luo didn't have the mood to explain her relationship with Gu Jingyu to Xiaba. Looking at Gu Jingyu's increasingly painful appearance. Yiqing Luo's eyes were about to burst into flames. Evil Tyrant. Since you are helping the Palace of Gloomy Darkness to deal with me, then come at me directly. Don't think that I'm really afraid of you who came from the Earth realm. Looking at Yiqing Luo's infuriated look, Xiaba laughed even more crazily. As he laughed, a tyrannical and terrifying aura exploded from his body. That horrifying and disgusting eyes exuded a thick chill. Chapter 2984. Evil Tyrant's palm flipped. Gu Jingyu, who was enveloped by the evil qi, was pushed towards Yiqing Luo's direction by a strong burst of profound energy. Gu Jingyu's expression changed drastically as he immediately unleashed his own profound energy, trying to break the confinement of the evil qi. But his strength was not enough to shake Evil Tyrant. Instead he spat out a big mouthful of blood due to his anger. Qing Luo dodge. Dodge. He only had time to shout out this sentence. These actions seemed to have consumed more than half of the time. But in fact it was just a moment. Yiqing Luo saw the blood splattering in midair and heard Gu Jingyu's obviously weak but anxious voice. Her heart instantly felt stuffed. This evil tyrant was simply too sinister. Using Gu Jingyu as a weapon, to attack her together with the evil qi. If she avoided or counterattacked, the person who was seriously injured or even lost his life was Gu Jingyu. But if she didn't avoid, Yiqing Luo's eyes dimmed. The current situation didn't allow her to consider any further. Her body had already instinctively made the most direct response. Her 5 fingers moved and the glower flame fan was like a blazing flame, as it completely dyed her pair of charming pupils red. Following that, her figure turned into a red remnant shadow as she charged towards Gu Jingyu's direction. Gu Jingyu was shocked as he endured the surging sweetness in his chest. Qing Luo. Bam. A burst of explosive profound energy was released from Gu Jingyu's surroundings. That celestial qi actually suppressed the evil aura that enveloped his body in an instant. Although, it was only that moment of suppression. But it also gave Qing Luo a chance to attack. The glower flame fan in her hands quickly turned towards a direction. One hand took the opportunity to grab Gu Jingyu's shoulder. The other hand was the glower flame fan, which was filled with an intense vicious qi, as it collided with the evil qi which was attacking. Bam bam bam. A deafening explosion was heard, as though thunder had exploded. The entire Miao tribe shook violently once again. Qing Luo dragged Gu Jingyu, as her physical strength was obviously not enough. Under the collision of these two forces, she, along with Gu Jingyu, were sent flying. Young sect master Gu Yu, are you alright? After Qing Luo stabilized herself, the first thing she did was to support the man beside her. In a trance, Gu Jingyu opened his eyes. The young girl's pair of starry eyes were bright and resplendent as she looked at him worriedly. With just one look, Gu Jingyu felt that the empty space in his heart was instantly filled up. He curled his lips and wanted to laugh. But his whole body was drained of strength, so he couldn't lift his lips. Don't force yourself, take a rest first. Qing Luo immediately fed him a few medicinal pills and comforted him gently. Almost greedily, Gu Jingyu wanted to open his eyes and look at the face that was so close to him. His thin lips moved, wanting to speak. But it was the medicinal pill that Qing Luo had fed him, sealing all his words. The imprints of the successors of the 4 major sects have appeared. As the successor of the sect leader, you will receive the protection of the 4 major sections. Qing Luo's tone was very calm as her slender fingers brushed past Gu Jingyu's forehead. On Gu Jingyu's forehead, a feather-like imprint surfaced. This imprint was very similar to that fellow Yi Fengyu's imprint. Thinking about it, this should be the West Continent, Gu Feng sect's young sect master's imprint. Chapter 2985. Yes, your mark as the young matriarch of Wind Valley sect has surfaced. Qing Luo repeated with certainty as her fingers moved away from his forehead. Gu Jingyu's hand moved as though he wanted to grab onto something. Between his brows, there was an obvious sense of disappointment. Qing Luo thought that Gu Jingyu wanted to raise his hand to touch his mark as she comforted him warmly. The pills I fed you are all high-grade pills. Rest for a while and you will be able to regain your strength. Gu Jingyu's lips trembled. Even though it was stained with blood, it couldn't conceal the paleness of his lips. Qing Luo glanced sideways as her peripheral vision shot a glance at Xiaba, who was looking at them eerily as she squinted her eyes. Whatever you want to say it later. She stood up and turned towards Xiaba's direction. She repeated what Old Man Song had told her previously to Gu Jingyu. The Wind Valley sect mark on your forehead has appeared. The power of the 4 great sects will protect you. If the people from secluded Darkness Palace want to protect their own position in Nirvana Realm and cover up everything that they had done, they will absolutely not dare to touch you. Once they touch you, the Overlord will definitely sense the presence of the lower realm. If the Balance Historian comes to Nirvana Realm and interferes in this matter, then secluded Darkness Palace's painstaking efforts will all go to waste. This was like earlier, when her profound jade heart exploded with powerful energy, leading to the Balance Historian's detection. According to rumors, the lower realm's 4 great sects were the servants left behind by the God Emperor to maintain the balance in the lower realm. Once the acknowledged successor met with any mishap, that would represent the collapse of one side's power. The balance in the lower realm would definitely be broken. The Balance Historian would absolutely not allow such an accident to happen. Gu Jingyu's breathing congealed. Even though his mind was muddled, but he could still hear Qing Luo's words clearly. His half-lidded eyes blinked hard. He tried his best to see the young lady in front of him more clearly, but all he could see was that slender, yet filled with boundless energy from her back. Her red robe was cut into numerous pieces as it hung on her body. She was obviously in a sorry state, but there was a unique charm to it. It made one to have an inexplicable confidence in her. Inexplicably believing that even in a desperate situation she could create miracles. Have you finished saying your last words to your little lover? Xiaba laughed sinisterly, as though giving Qing Luo and Gu Jingyu the chance to speak earlier was already a favor to Qing Luo. Qing Luo's eyes were clear and cold, Her slender fingers gently caressed the azure dew ring on her fingertip. Her lips curled up as she smiled lightly. If you had come for me from the very beginning, perhaps I wouldn't be so angry. Her voice was clear and melodious as if she was laughing. However, his tone was eerily cold. The smile on Xiaoba's face stiffened a little. His brows rose as he looked at Yiqing Luo with interest. His ability was above Yiqing Luo. Right from the start, although Yiqing Luo was facing him, she remained calm and composed. But evil tyrant could tell. His imposing manner had more or less awed Yiqing Luo. Furthermore, Xiaoba could obviously sense that Yiqing Luo's profound energy, which was raised by the god relic, was gradually dissipating. But Yiqing Luo's attitude towards him had changed. She looked at him with a gaze as cold as ice, so calm that there wasn't a single ripple. As though towards him there was no longer any fear or awe. This kind of cognition made the sinister cold smile on Xiaoba's lips gradually thicken. If the prey could bring an unexpected surprise. Chapter 2986. Do you want to know the consequences of infuriating me? Yiqing Luo's eyes seemed to be surging with flames. Her lips curled into a seductive smile as she slowly raised the hand which was holding the glower flame fan. Her slender 5 fingers tightened one by one. The red feather fan seemed to be plated with a layer of fire. The azure dew ring on her fingertip also overflowed with red electric currents at this moment. Bit by bit it enveloped Yiqing Luo. Her entire being seemed to have stepped into a sea of fire as her entire body was burning with raging flames. The violent and ruthless aura entangled her and entangled her. Consequences. Xiaoba didn't think much of it. Lass, aren't you a little too confident of yourself? Wanted to let him have a taste of the consequences? He was the overlord of an area in the Hell Palace. Even the Emperor of the Earth Realm had to take a detour when he saw him. This lass actually wanted to let him have a taste of the consequences? What a huge joke. Xiaoba laughed sinisterly. This seat's tolerance towards the prey has made the prey develop the thought of turning over and becoming the master. Looks like it's time for this seat to let you know. Just where is the disparity between you and this seat? Following Xiaoba's words. Around him, an explosive whirlwind was quickly stirred up around him. Various kinds of violent aura followed the whirlwind. His attitude was so free to do as he pleased. He totally didn't put Yiqing Luo and the others in his eyes. He just stretched out his hand and pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That whirlwind became even more violent. Endless black aura shot out from his fingertips. Bam! That burst of black evil chi shot straight towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's brows were like frozen ice as her figure flashed and instantly evaded it. The evil chi crashed onto the ground, causing the ground which had already turned into ruins to splatter once again. That strike had a monstrous chi wave. Xiaoba squinted his eyes, and when he saw Yiqing Luo evading this attack, his lips revealed a ridiculing cold smile. These evil energy blades won't end so easily. Let this seat see how long you can last. His cold and gloomy voice rang out in a leisurely manner. Following that, streams of black nefarious aura attacked him one after another like sharp weapons. Xiaoba was completely nonchalant. Where is the finger pointing? Sharp blades made of demonic energy shot out from that direction. Furthermore, the chi waves surged like surging waves, one wave after another, becoming more and more turbulent. Such dense evil energy blades. To Yiqing Luo, it was like a submachine gun was constantly shooting at her. Just as evil tyrant was feeling smug and relaxed, shooting in all directions, suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his raised arm. Immediately after, a gust of strong wind blew in the air. Xiaoba reacted quickly and tried to dodge. But when he dodged to the side to avoid the oncoming force, he felt a chill run down his spine. Bang! A fist with scorching power landed on his face. Xiaoba's figure was sent flying. In an instant, a series of rumbling sounds rang out. The ruins in the surroundings once again shook as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was splitting apart. A powerful surge of energy spread out in the air. Boom! Xiaoba fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground. His body swayed a few times. He rubbed his face in pain. The place which Yiqing Luo had hit seemed to be on fire. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Xiaoba's mouth. He raised his hand and wiped off the blood stains on his lips bit by bit. Chapter 2987. Xiaoba's self-confidence made him totally not notice it. Just as he kept shooting out the evil chi-sharp blades. That figure which was speedily shuttling through the evil chi-sharp blades was already carrying a blazing rage. As it got closer and closer to him, the figure was flickering and flickering, getting closer and closer. Xiaba, who was totally unguarded and extremely conceited. Naturally he fell for it. Towards Xiaba's tricks. Yiqing Luo had already been trained countless times by that bunch of old men in the Yi family in different ways back in the 21st century. Facing a hail of bullets, she was able to barge through it without any change in expression. Moreover, it was only at Xiaba's level. Although Yiqing Luo had used the Azure Dew Ring's last extreme energy, plus using her own blink movement secret art to upgrade her footwork, she speedily moved to Xiaba's side and struck out these two moves. She had also successfully injured Xiaba and even saw blood. But after all, it wasn't a vital point that was injured. Just that after 2 mouthfuls of blood were spat out. Xiaba then wiped his lips as his expression had not changed at all. On the contrary, Yiqing Luo. After striking out 2 moves, the red electric current which was circulating around her body slowly dissipated. The young lady's flame seemed to have been sucked away by something at this instance. That slender figure floated gently in the breeze. Her face was pale as though she would fall down from mid-air at any time. This pair of moves. It looked as though Xiaba had fallen pathetically injured. But in actual fact, Yiqing Luo's energy consumption was even greater. It's been a long time. A long time since I've smelled my own fresh blood. Xiaba's sinister cold voice was slightly crazed as it rang. That withered finger of his lightly wiped his own lips. Black evil qi enshrouded. That lips, that hand were extremely terrifying. That pair of death god-like eyes was filled with an excited expression, staring at Yiqing Luo without blinking. He stuck out his tongue. It swept past the blood stains on his fingertips. He laughed again. His laughter was extremely strange, filled with madness. It made one's hair stand on end. Young lass, you're not bad. This seed is getting more and more interested in you. That gloomy tone, no matter how one listened, it was penetrating. Yiqing Luo's fingers were clenched tightly as there wasn't a single trace of warmth on her icy cold face. Her charming eyes were icy cold as she stared at Xiaba. Her breathing was slightly messy and heavy. This seat really wanted to ask the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace for you. If I bring you back to Hell Palace, that bunch of lunatics would be willing to spend time on you? Ba grinned sinisterly as he touched his chin. The wound on his face and the blood-red birthmark kept wriggling as he grinned hideously. Faintly there was some evil qi. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Luo. Luo. Old man Tsang sensed Yiqing Luo's intention and immediately voiced out to stop her. Hell Palace's lunatics, none of them are normal. Furthermore, his strength is unfathomable. Even I can't detect his profound rank. If you were really brought to the Hell sect by him, even if the Overlord succeeded in curing the goo, he might not be able to bring you out of the Hell sect safely. If you're really brought to Hell Palace by him, even if the Overlord succeeds in curing the goo, perhaps he might not be able to bring you out safely. Old man Tsang's agitation made Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Chapter 2988. Yiqing Luo was very clear about this point. It wasn't just the power of the Azure Water Ring that couldn't be activated. She only had a few elixirs left to quickly replenish her energy and heal her internal injuries. Out of habit, she placed everything in the Profound Phoenix Ring. She placed the Profound Phoenix Ring beside Dmo Xian to accompany him. She only brought a few bottles of pills with her. If all of these pills were consumed, he would definitely die. With her weak body, she would not be able to withstand Evil Tyrant's attack. Only by using the power of the Azure Water Ring did he manage to injure the Evil Tyrant. Now, without the power of the Azure Dew Bracelet. Indeed, she was no match for Xiaba. Or perhaps, in her current state, unless she used the teleportation secret technique, she wouldn't be able to escape. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to force Evil Tyrant's attack away. Most importantly, she couldn't escape yet. Although the Saintess courtyard was complicated, with Miao Ji's cautiousness, she had set up a lot of Miaozhong formations. However, no matter how cautious he was, unfortunately, the Miao tribe already had spies from the gloomy palace. It was only a matter of time before the place where Dmo Xian cured the goo was found. She escaped. That would be giving the Palace of Darkness a chance to hurt Dmo Xian. Currently, Dark Nether Palace's people were worried that Saintess Institute had too many goo worms, so they did not dare to act rashly. However, if the madman Xiaba came, he would not have any misgivings, nor would he care about how many people would die. There was a high possibility that Xiaba had chosen to split the entire Sacred Nun courtyard apart to find Dmo Xian. She would never allow such a thing to happen. Miao Ji had already ascended. There was only Miao Yi in the secret room of the Saintess courtyard. She could not let anything disturb Miao Yi. Hopefully, Yan Xiaoyi and the others could bring Qi Yan and Shi Ju to stop the people from the Palace of Darkness. Jia Jia Jia. Evil tyrant's sinister laughter suddenly rang in his ears. That twisted and crazed face, his pair of bloodthirsty and greedy eyes stared at Yiqing Luo. Why? You were so arrogant just a moment ago and now you're refusing to speak? It's okay. Little girl, don't be afraid. He swung his right hand, which was almost crippled by Yiqing Luo earlier. The stinging pain in his arm made the smile on his face even crazier. The stronger Yiqing Luo was, the stronger the resistance. The more Xieba thought about it, the more interesting it was. His crazed eyes were filled with admiration towards Yiqing Luo. Of course, this admiration wasn't the admiration of a senior towards a junior. Instead, he was extremely appreciative of the power contained within her body. So much so that he already had the impulse to cut open Yiqing Luo on the spot to study her profound jade heart, her meridians, internal organs and so on. His greedy eyes were blazing hot. How could Yiqing Luo possibly not feel it? She gripped the glowing flame fan tightly and glanced at the deep water ring. In her heart, she had already made up her mind. Last. You can't do this. Old man Tsang sensed the ups and downs of Yiqing Luo's emotions and anxiously shouted out. Old man Tsang. Yiqing Luo's voice was very light, with a trace of undetectable bitterness. It's always Xian who's been protecting me with his life. With his skills and strength, it was impossible for him to be poisoned by Miao Rongrong and Miao Yixiong. He did it to protect me because he loved me. She pursed her lips tightly as her eyes had already turned red. She tried her best to hold back the tears in her eyes, not allowing them to fall. Chapter 2989. How many times in the past I enjoyed Xian's protection and care, and I got through one crisis after another. Now, it's my turn to protect Xian. Protect the man, who has always loved me, doted on me, held me in the palm of his hand, doted on and doted on. Love is a matter between two people. She could not always rely on DMO Xian's love. And scrupulously enjoying DMO Xian's contribution. She also loved DMO Xian. Just like how DMO Xian loved her. She was willing to sacrifice her life for DMO Xian. However, her eyelashes fluttered and she lowered her eyes. I want to protect Xian. At the very least, I want to hold on until Yi can cure him of the curse. It's just that, I'm really sorry. Old man Song wanted to say something. He suddenly felt as if the azure dew bracelet had been scalded by something. Even Old man Song's body began to heat up. Old man Song's tone suddenly rose. Luo girl, you. Yiqing Luo's bloody fingertip pressed onto the azure dew bracelet and said in a low voice, Old man Song, I promised you that I would help you recover your human form. If anything happens to me, you should follow Xian. With Xian around, you will definitely be better than you are now. Little girl Luo. Old man Song only had time to call out. Then, his spiritual body was corroded by the overwhelming heat. Yiqing Luo was forcefully removing the blood pact with him. Starting from Yiqing Luo's rage. Old man Song realized what Yiqing Luo was trying to do, to stop Xieba. But he didn't expect Yiqing Luo would really make up her mind. Furthermore, he was prepared to die. Just to delay Xieba, to buy time for DMO Xian to cure the poison. Yiqing Luo didn't even know if Miao Yi had the confidence to cure DMO Xian. There was no way to be sure. Would DMO Xian explode after removing the love goo? Only the centrifugal force goo was left. In that case, DMO Xian wouldn't even remember her. It was even more impossible for him to understand everything she had done for him. In this way, was there really any meaning to it? Even so, old man Song still didn't have the intention to ask. In front of him, gradually because of that drop of blood that Yiqing Luo had dripped in, it started to become hazy and blurry. Just when old man Song thought that he was going to fall into a deep slumber, suddenly something warm brushed past his forehead. A clear and ethereal voice faintly rang in his ears. She's always so reckless. This blood pact cannot be broken. I can only trouble you to continue taking care of her. That voice was ethereal, as if the wind was speaking. He spoke very softly and slowly. If one did not listen carefully, one might not even hear it. However, old man Song could hear the helplessness and faint pampering in that tone of voice. Who was that? Old man Song tried his best to open his eyes. He wanted to clearly see who exactly was the person who could converse with his spiritual body. However, as that warm touch brushed across his entire body, old man Song could no longer maintain his consciousness and fell into a deep sleep. Yi Qing Luo, who didn't know what was going on, thought that she had already rescinded the blood pact with Old Man Song, so she faced Xiaba head-on, fearlessly looking at him. Her pink lips, gently raised into an extremely shallow cold arc. There was no expression on Qing Cheng's face. That pair of charming eyes was flowing with a cold glint, without any warmth at all. Yi Qing Luo didn't say any unnecessary nonsense. Her 5 fingers moved and the glower flame fan opened up. Chapter 2990. A dazzling red glow blossomed from her palm. The coquettish glower fan seemed to have blended into the flame as it kept burning along with the profound qi. She narrowed her eyes as her entire body emitted a murderous aura as she charged forward. Yi Qing Luo's speed was extremely fast as her figure swiftly stuck close to Xiaba. "Young lass, this seat will not give you a second chance." Xiaba gave a cold laugh. After suffering a loss from Yi Qing Luo once, he was already on his guard against Yi Qing Luo's figure. Adding on to the fact that Yi Qing Luo had already lost the God Relic's energy consolidation. Xiaba only needed to put in a little bit of effort and he easily saw Yi Qing Luo's swift revolving footwork clearly. He tugged his lips coldly as he speedily turned towards the direction of the attack and launched a counterattack. Both parties were instantly entangled together. The entire space was enveloped in this oppressive and terrifying aura. Yi Qing Luo's attacks were vicious as she had no intention of stopping the battle. Whereas after Xiaba was injured by Yi Qing Luo, his heart was already filled with anger. After exchanging over 10 moves, Yi Qing Luo's body was already riddled with injuries. And by this time, Xiaba had already seen through all of Yi Qing Luo's moves. Every time Yi Qing Luo launched another wave of attacks, she was able to swiftly retaliate. This made Yi Qing Luo's battle even more strenuous. Yi Qing Luo was extremely clear about this change. No matter if it was Xiaba or that group of disciples who had escaped far away but kept peeking their heads out to spectate the battle, or the clansmen, they all understood the situation in front of them very clearly. Yi Qing Luo was absolutely not Xiaba's opponent. Furthermore, the disparity was simply too huge. "Young lass, this farce should end now. Other than bringing you back, I have other tasks." Xiaba's lips curled up coldly as he spoke coldly when Yi Qing Luo was once again pushed back and spitting out blood. Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was clutching the glower fan, tightened. Her breathing started to become messy. After hearing Xiaba's words, that emotionless face faintly surfaced a trace of complicated fluctuations. That pair of eyes couldn't help but flicker. Task, Xiaba's task. Was it referring to Dmo Xian? Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk. Following this, her eyes squinted as a piercingly cold light shot toward Xiaba like a sharp blade. Then, she lifted her slender fingers and quickly pressed them against her chest. Xiaba only assumed that Yi Qing Luo had suffered a serious injury which led to her internal discomfort. He totally disregarded Yi Qing Luo's actions. More accurately, he totally disapproved of Yi Qing Luo's ability. Even though Yi Qing Luo had injured him once. However, the moment Xiaba let his guard down, when he came back to his senses, Yi Qing Luo suddenly waved the glower flame fan in her hands. Countless bewitching rays were emitted from the devouring flame fan in the form of red silvery threads that wrapped around Xiaba from all directions. Evil tyrant relaxed. He didn't even have time to react. His limbs were completely bound by the red silver threads. Yi Qing Luo retracted her fingers. The devouring flame fan closed. The countless silver threads that wrapped around Xiaba's body also tightened. Xiaba frowned and his eyes turned cold. "Xiaba." Yi Qing Luo's voice was slightly chilly as her pink lips curled slightly with a bloodthirsty arc. "I will not give you any chance to do other tasks." As her voice fell, she clenched her fingers even tighter. The red silver threads cut into Xiaba's flesh. Chapter 2991. Little lass, do you think this will be able to trap this seat? Xiaba scoffed lightly as he lowered his eyes to stare at the silver wires which kept embedding into his flesh, as the gloominess in his eyes grew. This was the second time he was hurt by this lass. Did she think that using the net created by the glower flame fan would be able to trap him? Little lass was still a little lass. She was still too inexperienced. Really? Then go ahead and try. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she gave a ridiculing smile. Her eyes were filled with disdain and ridicule towards Xiaba, as though she had absolute confidence towards the net which she created herself. Following that, Yi Qing Luo unleashed her profound energy, as she transferred it onto the glower flame fan. Xiaba could obviously feel that the silver wires which wound around his body was getting tighter and tighter. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Perhaps it was because of this disturbing net which bound him till it hurt a little. Perhaps it was Yi Qing Luo's self-confidence and provocation, which angered him. Xiaoba's slender brows suddenly creased tightly, as his tensed arms suddenly lifted up forcefully. That shriveled 5 fingers, also clenched tightly into a fist. The next moment, those black profound chi which was cut apart by the net suddenly seemed as though it had spiritual consciousness, as it gathered together in a turbulent manner, as it surged towards Xiaoba's direction, surging towards him. Vigorous and boundless energy. Instantly, it surged violently on Xiaoba's body. The rolling profound energy was like a stormy sea as it kept on surging. Bam bam bam. A few cracking sounds were heard. The black demonic chi was like a thunder explosion. Those demonic red-silver wires which wound around his body instantly broke apart as it poured out in torrents. Bam. Yi Qing Luo was also forced to fly backwards by this gust of energy, as she crashed heavily onto a piece of waste rock. GGG. A sinister smile was overflowing from Xiaoba's mouth. Chi waves dispersed. Xiaoba stood in the middle, safe and sound. Other than the blood on his body which had been cut out by the net, his entire person seemed as though nothing had happened before. His expression had not changed a single bit. Whereas this scene made those onlookers who were afraid of death all sucked in a cold breath. Xiaoba actually broke Yi Qing Luo's net binding. Could it be that there was really nothing that could restrain this terrifying person? Yi Qing Luo, who was sent flying slowly, propped herself up. Her slender fingers were still pressing against her chest. The failure of the net did not make her feel pity or dejected. Instead, he was blasted away by Xiaoba. He revealed a mocking sneer. That smile was so brilliant, it made Xiaoba feel uneasy for some reason. He originally thought that the shattering web would make Yi Qing Luo turn pale with fright. And then it slowly dissipated. Something was wrong, something was very wrong. Yi Qing Luo's expression was too strange. Just as the atmosphere was stifling and depressing, they stared at each other in silence. Suddenly, a deafening explosion came from not far away. Roar, roar, clang, clang. What followed were 2 sharp beastly cries. The horizon was instantly enveloped by a ball of flames. When Yi Qing Luo heard this voice, her back instantly stiffened as she speedily glanced sideways towards the direction of the voice. On the horizon, Qi Yan's colorful phoenix feathers streaked across the sky. Shi Ju's figure flashed from time to time. It was the direction of Holy Maiden Institute. The chi waves over there were tumultuous. The sand and stones on the ground flew everywhere, and there was a hurricane howling. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly expanded. The smile at the corner of his mouth slowly froze on his face. Dark Palace's people had already found the direction of Holy Maiden Institute. Chapter 2992. Still in the mood to care about others? By her ear, Xiaoba's gloomy voice was just inches away. Yi Qing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. She quickly regained her senses. But no matter how fast she was, she couldn't beat Xiaoba, who was already closing in on her. The incoming black evil aura landed directly on her shoulder. Oh! Yi Qing Luo gave a dull moan as her face turned pale. Her figure swiftly retreated backwards, avoiding Xiaoba's attack range. She panted lightly. She quickly fed the remaining pills into her mouth. Little lass, don't worry, I will bring you to meet your group of brothers soon. Xiaoba saw that Yi Qing Luo's gaze was still on the Sacred Maiden Institute's side after being struck by his palm as he laughed sinisterly. Yi Qing Luo seemed as though she didn't hear what he said. As she panted lightly, her gaze quickly wandered around the Palace of Darkness's side. Finally, when she didn't see the figure she was looking for, she pursed her lips tightly as a sliver of panic surfaced on her face. Wolf Saint Technique and Fox Saint Technique were no longer around. Even that magical beast blood sacrifice which looked like a dinosaur had disappeared. Palace of Darkness's target was DMO Xian. Miao Ji's ascension had exposed DMO Xian's location. Those 2 people had definitely brought people and rushed over to the Sacred Maiden Institute. Even if Wolf Saint Technique and Fox Saint Technique were heavily injured. But no one could guarantee it. Palace of Darkness could only invite this madman from the Underworld Palace. As though to confirm Yi Qing Luo's guess. It was just so coincidental. Over at the Sacred Maiden Institute's side, a burst of energy which seemed to be able to destroy the heaven and earth suddenly appeared. That burst of energy enveloped the entire Miao tribe in an instant. Endless surging profound energy charged, enveloping everything in the Miao tribe. Found it. Immediately following that, a sharp and steady voice broke through the air. Young Master Emo. Come over, the person in the dark has been found. A black figure appeared above the Sacred Maiden Pavilion. A majestic and violent profound energy was emitted from his body. His black robe was fluttering from the strong chi. At this moment, the seemingly young face of the youth was filled with seriousness. It was totally inconsistent with the temperament he was emitting. Following the sound of the voice, a white silhouette flew past. One in black and one in white, two slender but steady youths stood back to back. Yiqing Luo saw their faces clearly. Wasn't it Gui Wu and Zhou Mo? Ever since the disciple of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness attacked, neither Gui Wu nor Zhou Mo had any plans to take action. Zhou Mo would occasionally take action to clean up Kitty Li when she was injured. Gui Wu's intention was to watch with folded arms. In Yiqing Luo's heart, she more or less knew the reason behind this. The identities of Gui Wu and Zhou Mo were clearly extremely mysterious. Yiqing Luo was almost certain. These two people were definitely not from the Nirvana realm. In the Nirvana realm, when Yen Xiaoyi and the rest weren't in any real danger, the ghost martial artist would definitely not harm others. That was because, the moment Gui Wu made his move, that would be violating the balance of the Nirvana realm. Now, Gui Wu was not the only one who had taken action. Zhou Mo and Gui Wu also fought side by side. From this, it could be seen how powerful his opponent was. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale as it turned a little ugly. Yeah, I've never expected to see such powerful people in the lower realm. Xiaba also felt this powerful energy as he looked over with interest. Chapter 2993. Leng Yan. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as her fingers clenched tightly. Secluded Palace has really put in a lot of effort. Just because of a favor they made two people from Hell Palace become their lackeys. Xiaba stared angrily at her as his eyes were filled with a strange gloomy coldness. Little lass trying to worm information out of this seat? You're still too tender. His gaping wound that revealed his flesh and ghastly white bones was also a ghastly sight to behold. However, I can tell you, Leng Yan is indeed over there, doing his mission. Yiqing Luo's face turned completely pale. She couldn't even maintain her pretense of composure. Over at Sacred Maiden Institute, there was really another madman from Hell Palace. One Xiaba had already made her anxious and she had no way to deal with him. There was another Leng Yan. How could Yen Xiaoyi and the rest be their match? Gui Wu and Zhou Mo, could they stop that madman called Leng Yan? I really don't know what's over there that is worth your attention. Xiaba sneered coldly as he swept a disdainful glance towards Sacred Maiden Institute's direction. Little lass, after this seat finishes dealing with you, I still need to go over to help. Since you're so worried over there, why not follow the seat over? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. You guys don't know the reason why Secluded Palace asked you to go over there? Saying that, she pointed towards Sacred Maiden Institute's direction. What motive? Isn't important. As long as this seat exterminates that piece of land, destroying everything in the Miao tribe, to return Secluded Palace's favor, that's enough. Apparently, Xiaba was still concerned about Yiqing Luo's lackey. Yiqing Luo's eyes darkened when she heard that. It was indeed as she had guessed. Based on the madman's character, why would he search for Dmo Xian's whereabouts? Directly exterminating that piece of land to complete the mission would do. Then all the more she couldn't let Xiaba go over to Sacred Maiden Institute. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes as she sensed her heart, that profound jade heart which was slowly spreading its energy. She slowly let out a long breath. Still trying to struggle? Xiaba saw Yiqing Luo's look and couldn't help but ridicule her. Yiqing Luo abruptly opened her eyes as a cold ray of light flashed past. The corners of her lips curled up into an icy smile. You'll know very soon whether or not this is a final struggle. I've said it before, I'll let you know the consequences of angering me. Her slender fingers once again pressed on her chest. A bewitching red light blossomed from his palm. This action made Xiaba frown, as he didn't really understand what Yiqing Luo's motive was. If Xiaba took a closer look, perhaps he could see it. The place where Yiqing Luo's palm was pressing was not the heart. Instead, the location of the profound heart jade. He was right. It was the profound heart jade. That one and only divine phoenix profound heart jade. From the moment they realized that Dmo Xian was the target of the Nether Palace, Yiqing Luo had already decided on this idea. Her profound jade heart could urge her to release a strength that was even more formidable than that of the deep water ring, when he pressed his palm against the profound heart jade for the first time. Yiqing Luo had already taken out the tranquil bead which stabilized her divine phoenix profound heart jade. Her profound heart jade had been depleted numerous times. Forcefully activating the profound heart jade's energy, the consequence was that she might suffer from the backlash of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. But if she could control Xiaba to gain some time for Dmo Xian to cure the goo, all these would be worth it. Chapter 2994. The only thing that could restrain Xiaba was her divine phoenix profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo could sense that the profound heart jade in her body was stirring in response to her summoning. A scorching feeling slowly spread in her chest. The change in aura made Xiaba's gaze immediately turn towards Yiqing Luo. Don't tell me there's still some god relic? Xiaba opened his mouth coldly as his death god's eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. But after staring for some time, he didn't see Yiqing Luo moving at all. Xiaba frowned. The evil aura that lingered around his body seemed to be urging him to do something, as it continued to churn. No matter what, I will not let you have the chance to use it. Xiaba immediately lost the mood to tease Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's current state was simply too strange. That kind of fearless attitude. It really gave him an ominous premonition. Xiaba flew up and his palms which were filled with evil qi directly struck towards the top of Yiqing Luo's skull. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she mobilized the profound energy in her body and quickly displayed her footwork. Only she had just moved a step. It was as if Xiaba had already predicted where she would go next. She had yet to stand firm. Yiqing Luo felt a burst of sinister cold glint, like a sharp blade, pressing towards her. No matter how fast her speed was. At this moment she had barely avoided a fatal blow. The aftershock of that palm strike shook her so much that she felt as if her internal organs were churning inside her chest. Yiqing Luo felt a fishy sweetness in her throat as she spat out a mouthful of blood. It's time to end this, Xiaba said coldly. Looking at Yiqing Luo's extremely pale face, his lips tugged coldly as he gathered his evil qi once again. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as the hand which was pressing on her chest exerted more force. Just as Xiaba was about to attack again. Just as her profound heart jade was about to move and was about to activate its protection function. Suddenly, a warm current brushed past Yiqing Luo's chest. It easily suppressed the restless profound heart jade. This change, this warm current, made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. He was still in a daze. Soon after, she felt a burning sensation of fullness, as if a raging fire had engulfed her chest. Oh! Yiqing Luo let out a painful moan. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. His body seemed to have suddenly lost all its strength, becoming as light as a feather. And at this moment, Xiaba, who was attacking Yiqing Luo, this palm didn't have the time to land. He was sent flying by the sudden burst of rays from Yiqing Luo's body. Xiaba retreated a few steps and looked at his palm in disbelief. He had yet to strike, and then he looked at the young girl in front of him. This is a breakthrough? Xiaba's eyes widened, and the red birthmark on his face expanded as he moved. The girl in front of him was engulfed in a storm. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth merged with the storm bit by bit and slowly seeped into the girl's body. It was a storm. It was like a sturdy protective shield. Even he was unable to get close to interrupt Yiqing Luo's advancement. He could only watch helplessly as the storm around the young girl's body surged madly, faster and faster. That lightning-fast speed kept gushing madly into Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo felt as if there was a roar ringing in her head. Her profound heart jade was scorching hot, as though she was in a sea of fire. Bam! It was as if something had knocked hard on his heart. Chapter 2995. Red light flickered in her clear and charming eyes, enchanting and elegant. Xiao Chen's red clothes were like fire, making the red light look even more resplendent, giving off a subduing aura. 3,000 strands of black hair danced in the air due to the violent surge of energy. Faintly, a few flame-like flower petals could be seen on the girl's fair and smooth forehead. Xiaba's body stiffened. Did he see wrongly? The girl's body was filled with surging profound force. The waves of bewitching red light, was it an illusion? That mark, how could it appear on a person from the lower realm? Xiaba's heart trembled and he immediately looked over. However, at the same time, the raging windstorm ferociously scurried into Yiqing Luo's body, as it completely merged into her body. The dazzling light pierced Xiaoba's eyes, causing him to feel a stinging pain. When Evil Tyrant looked over again, the girl's black hair was like a waterfall, scattered over her shoulders. The red glow on his body also dissipated. His forehead was smooth and there were no marks on it. It was an illusion. It must have been an illusion. Xiaoba's heart slowly calmed down. Little girl, do you think that you can deal with me just because you broke through the barrier? Xiaoba smirked disdainfully and said with a cold smile, do you know that no matter how much you improve, my strength will always be above yours? The young girl, who was as pretty as a flower, looked at Xiaoba indifferently. There was not the slightest hint of emotion on her beautiful face. It was as if he didn't appreciate Xiaoba's confident words at all. Yiqing Luo's attitude made Xiaoba's expression turned extremely ugly. To Yiqing Luo, this little prey. Xiaoba only felt that. This last was really strange. Several times, it had exceeded his imagination. Xiaoba was certain that Yiqing Luo wasn't his match. But, don't look at how Xiaoba seemed to be deliberately teasing Yiqing Luo. In order to capture his prey for fun, he deliberately held back, allowing Yiqing Luo to make astonishing counterattacks time and time again. However, only Xiaoba knew this clearly in his heart. He had long since been injured by Yiqing Luo for the first time. He no longer had the mood to tease her. Especially after Leng Yan was discovered by the two youths, one black and one white. He was even less inclined to stay in the lower realm. Although those two youths appeared to be young, they were extremely powerful. However, he couldn't sense their profound ranks or profound chi fluctuations at all. He could not sense it. There were only two possibilities. Firstly, those two were ordinary people. Secondly, those two people's profound ranks were at least 5 ranks higher than his. Obviously, those two belonged to the latter group. Xiaoba had no choice but to face this seriously. Although their underworld palace was known for being daring and arrogant, they were not people who dared to act recklessly. But it has been preserved until now. It was also because no matter how arrogant they would absolutely not cross the bottom line of the balance of the 3 dimensions. Just like in the Earth domain, they committed atrocities and cultivated evil arts. Before things got out of hand. Even if the Emperor of the Earth realm knew about it, he would turn a blind eye to it. But now, they snuck into the lower realm and worked together with the gloomy palace to destroy the peace in the lower realm. Once this matter was known by the upper realm, those who had grievances against them would definitely suppress them. He did not want to lose his life for the sake of returning a favor to the Palace of Darkness. Xiaoba clenched his withered fingers tightly, and the evil aura around his body quickly revolved. Chapter 2996. Yiqing Luo's surroundings, that surge of protective shield which was formed due to her advancement, had already disappeared. Xiaoba didn't have any hesitation as his sinister attacks met hers head-on. He had to end this battle quickly. Xiaoba's eyes turned gloomy as his sinister aura burst forth. Yiqing Luo's calm eyes quietly looked at the direction where Xiaoba was attacking from. She could feel it clearly. Within her body, there seemed to be something, slowly brushing past all her internal injuries. As though she had been reborn. Her entire body felt extremely relaxed. Most importantly, earlier when she crossed hands with Xiaoba, Xiaoba's speed was even faster than hers. She was unable to detect Xiaoba's silhouette at the first instance. She could only rely on her own judgment and acute senses to guess the direction of Xiaoba's attack. But now, right after she had advanced, she could actually see through Xiaoba's movements. Yiqing Luo's pupils flashed slightly. At the instance when Xiaoba's sinister aura coiled around her, she clenched her fists tightly as her body suddenly rolled backwards, using an extremely strange posture to avoid Xiaoba's attack. Yiqing Luo's figure was graceful and her unhurried movements made Xiaoba slightly stunned. As though he was extremely shocked that Yiqing Luo was able to avoid his attack so easily. Xiaoba frowned as he didn't believe it as he launched the next attack. The sinister aura surged as the airwaves became even more turbulent. His speed also increased by several notches. Only, just as Xiaoba thought that he had no chance of losing, Yiqing Luo rolled on the ground again, but she didn't seem to be in a sorry state as she avoided this move. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly retreated. She clenched her fingers tightly as her alluring eyes seemed to be burning with flames. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly waved out numerous wind blades. Thunder rumbled as lightning flashed. Those wind blades were like sharp blades as they sliced through the sky full of flying sand. Xiaoba's heart jolted as he narrowed his eyes sinisterly. Both his hands moved as he speedily avoided those wind blades. Swish swish swish. Helplessly, those wind blades' power was extremely huge and the quantity was huge. No matter how fast Xiaoba's speed was. His body was brushed by several wind blades, leaving behind several blood scars. Xiaoba's body spun in the air and landed heavily on the ground. He steadied himself and stared at the wound that had been grazed by the wind blade with a gloomy expression. It was just a promotion. And it was able to raise Yiqing Luo's ability to such an extent? Not only could he see through his moves, and it could even give him the strongest counterattack? This little prey had really given him too many surprises. These surprises, if they gave it to the Palace of Gloomy Darkness for nothing, it was not worth it at all. Xiaoba's cold eyes flashed with a trace of sinister coldness. A thought formed in his mind. Xiaoba's sinister eyes were filled with a ruthless and bloodthirsty cold glint. Yiqing Luo, you're really an interesting little thing. This seat has decided not to bother about whatever secluded palace, whatever favor. These ferocious and crazy words. This made Yiqing Luo's brows crease slightly. Xiaoba wanted her to bring him to the Hell Palace? As though to verify Yiqing Luo's thoughts. Xiaoba's maniacal and greedy eyes were staring at her without blinking. Those favors can't be compared to the uniqueness of your prey. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly. She sensed the profound energy which kept scouring her limbs and bones after the promotion. The profound grade which had not had any activity for a long time. This time round she was mysteriously promoted. Yiqing Luo herself felt that it was inconceivable. Chapter 2997. The discomfort from forcefully activating her profound jade heart was suppressed. The profound qi circulating within her body was also progressing in an orderly manner, as though there was some kind of energy guiding it. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled earlier when her profound jade heart was about to activate its protective consciousness, that flash of warmth. Somehow she felt. There was an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Only no matter how she recalled. He could not recall when he had felt such a warm current. Leng Yin, according to the original plan, destroy the Miao tribe, then come over and help me bring this last to the underworld palace. She suddenly heard Xiaoba's gloomy and cold voice. Destroy the Miao tribe. These 4 words made Yiqing Luo suddenly regain her senses. Following that, she saw Xiaoba holding a ball of evil qi in his palm as he was talking to that evil qi. Very quickly, she heard a hoarse and gloomy male voice coming from the evil qi. You can't even catch a young lass? You still need my help? This month, I am the lord of the underworld palace. How dare you disrespect me? Xiaoba's hair stood on end as he bellowed in rage. That gloomy male voice sneered in disdain. Yes, 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 Lord Hell, I'll destroy the Miao tribe right now and come over to help you. Saying that, the black qi in Xiaoba's palm dispersed. Bam bam bam. Following that, the entire space started to shake violently. The Miao tribe, which had already turned into ruins, started to slowly collapse downwards. Yiqing Luo's vision looked towards the direction of the Sacred Maiden Institute. As expected. On that side, a violent gale was howling. Endless sand and rocks were flying, obscuring everything over there. Only the scarlet flame, which was overflowing with colors, brought a trace of brilliance. Profound qi clashed, clashing continuously. Apparently, a fierce battle was about to break out. The ground collapsed, those disciples who were still alive, or the clansmen who were fleeing in agony. It made Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo and the others didn't stop that man called Leng Yin? No way. She absolutely could not let Leng Yin destroy the Miao tribe. She could not let Leng Yin alarm Miao Yi, who was in the secret room. She could not disturb Xian's Gu removal. Once the Gu removal was interrupted, not only Miao Yi and Dmo Xian might suffer the backlash of the Gu worm. Their lives would also be in danger. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled violently. It was as if something was ruthlessly strangling her heart, causing her to feel stifled and flustered, unable to calm down. Tieske, is there really something over there that you're so interested in? Xiaoba clicked his tongue as his eyes wandered between Gu Jingyu and Yiqing Luo. This gaze of yours is much more passionate than when you look at your little lover. Yiqing Luo totally didn't have any intention to bother about him as she leapt up and charged towards the direction of Sacred Maiden Courtyard. A strong gust of wind blocked her way. The demonic energy wrapped around her, sealing her footsteps. Xiaoba laughed coldly. Little girl, even if you rush over there, it will be useless. Leng Yan's destructive power is unparalleled. Don't think you'll be safe just because you found 2 helpers from other realms to help you stop him. What a pity. Leng Yan's goal is to destroy the Miao tribe, to destroy the Miao tribe, to turn the Miao tribe from this world into a void space. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. She abruptly raised her eyes as she stared at Xieba. You didn't hear wrongly, even if they can stop Leng Yan's men, but they can't stop Leng Yan's destructive power. After tomorrow, the Miao tribe will completely disappear from this world, falling into a void space. Chapter 2998. All living things in the Miao tribe will turn into nothingness. All living things in the Miao tribe will turn into nothingness. All living things in the Miao tribe will turn into nothingness. This sentence kept on replaying in Yiqing Luo's mind. Yiqing Luo's brain was so shocked by this sentence that her eardrums were buzzing. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed together. The pain was so intense that she could barely breathe. Axian, her Axian. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly enlarged. Young lass, you'd better obediently follow this seat to the underworld palace. If you're able to gain this seat's liking, this seat can still take you in as a disciple, and in future, you might even inherit this seat's position. Xieba looked at Yiqing Luo's extremely pale face as he laughed sinisterly. However, the current Yiqing Luo totally didn't hear it. Her mind was filled with Dmo Xian's figure. His mind was filled with evil tyrant's words. Xian was still in the process of curing the goo. If Leng Yan destroyed the Saintess Pavilion, all the living beings of the Miao tribe were destroyed in an instant, reduced to nothingness. Even if it was Dmo Xian, he would not be able to escape this calamity. She would never let that happen. She could not let Xian disappear. She had to rush to Xian's side. She had to protect Xian. Yiqing Luo's pair of eyes gradually surfaced a trace of extremely strange red glow. That redness in Yiqing Luo's pupils was like a thin thread spreading outwards. It looked extremely horrifying. Xieba was stunned by Yiqing Luo's vicious aura. Following that, he was overwhelmed with joy. He was on the verge of going crazy as he stared at Yiqing Luo in excitement. Previously, when he said that he wanted to take Yiqing Luo in as his disciple, it was merely because he had the intention to tease her. But now, he sincerely wanted to take Yiqing Luo in as his disciple. He never expected that he would be able to encounter such a good seedling in the lower realms. His understanding of this lass was constantly being refreshed. This girl, regardless of whether it was her ever-changing strength or his personality, they were all to his liking. Xieba was ecstatic as he went up to pull Yiqing Luo. Now, even though he was being criticized by the other lunatics of the underworld palace, he also had to ignore the favor he owed to the Palace of Darkness. But in Yiqing Luo's eyes, he didn't exist at all. Yiqing Luo sped towards the direction of the Sacred Maiden Institute as she sped off. His speed was like lightning. Evil Tyrant's hand caught nothing. Evil Tyrant looked at his empty hand and smiled instead of getting angry. His eyes were full of admiration. Then he quickened his pace and chased after them. One thing followed another. No one noticed. Amidst the wreckage of the ruins, a slender figure climbed out of the mound unsteadily. That figure was in a sorry state and smelled horrible. Vaguely, one could only see that the figure was wearing a white chiffon dress. In that person's hand, there was a corpse that had already been smashed beyond recognition. The man slowly raised his head and looked in the direction of the Saintess yard. Then he casually tossed the corpse in his hand away. Then, step by step, he walked towards the Saintess yard with great difficulty. The corpse that had been abandoned by that person rolled on the ground. Under the mangled flesh, one could barely make out the face, Yanjin Fei. Outside the Saintess yard, majestic and powerful energy enveloped the surroundings. Chapter 2999. Yiqing Luo had just rushed over. Sand and pebbles flew in front of him. It carried a strong smell of blood. Qing Luo. Why are you here? Several voices came from not far away. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest stood back to back, holding the weapons in their hands. Their bodies were covered with obvious wounds. Yiqing Luo knew that her current reaction was to give the Palace of Seclusion a clue to look for Dmo Xian. She didn't dare to look in the direction of the secret chamber. She could only keenly perceive the Saintess yard, with the obstruction of Yan Xiaoyi and the others. Furthermore, there were countless goo worm traps in Saintess courtyard. The people from the Palace of Darkness were only in the outer courtyard of the Saintess Institute. Where's Master Gui Wu and young Master Mo? Yiqing Luo's gaze quickly wandered around the surroundings. She had to find Leng Yan first and stop him. However, as soon as her voice fell, a swift and fierce attack came from behind him. Yiqing Luo reacted. Just as he was about to dodge, but his gaze swept past Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. Her body had already reflexively opened up the glowing flame fan. Her 5 fingers moved, stirring up a violent wind blade. Facing the attack coming from behind, she directly pressed forward. It was Evil Tyrant. He had caught up. Evil Tyrant's attack. Yi Qing Luo's current position was totally unable to hide. If she dodged, Xiaba's attack must have landed on Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. She was a profound practitioner of the Sky Profound Realm, and she could only barely fight against Xiaba with the help of external forces. No matter how sharp Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were, he was also unable to dodge Evil Tyrant's attack. He couldn't let Xiaba hurt Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. Yi Qing Luo didn't hide and could only move forward. But she was in a passive position after all. The speed of his counterattack was also slightly slower. Evil Tyrant's attack was blocked by more than half. But there was still a large portion of the remaining power which shocked Yi Qing Luo. Qing Luo, are you alright? Xiao Jin shielded Yan Xiaoyi behind him and asked worriedly as he approached. Just focus on dealing with that bunch of people from the Palace of Seclusion, don't let them enter the Sacred Maiden Institute again. Yi Qing Luo stopped Xiao Jin's footsteps sharply. The Palace of Seclusion has found help from the Earth boundary. Xiao Jin's pupils shrank. Earth domain? People from the Earth domain dared to sneak into the lower domain? Aren't they afraid that the Historian of Balance will find them? Even now, he couldn't use the power of the Huangfu family. This was to prevent the Historian from finding out and prevent the Huangfu clan from making a fuss. The Palace of Dark Seclusion had blatantly colluded with the people from the upper realm. Were they not afraid of punishment? They can't escape. Yi Qing Luo only left this sentence as she pressed on the place where she was shocked by the remnant force, as her figure speedily skimmed upwards. Her dress fluttered in the wind, leaving behind an alluring afterimage. Following the direction that Kitty Lee had pointed, she quickly moved her feet. A moment later, he saw 3 figures entangled together behind the Saintess courtyard. That energy, which seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth, continued to spread its evil aura as they fought. This was trying to destroy the evil energy of the Miao tribe? Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as the glower flame fan speedily flew towards that evil chi. Just as it was about to sever that evil chi, Evil Tyrant's figure swayed as he laughed sinisterly. Young lass, this seat wants to bring you to the Hell Palace, and that is already going against the deal with the Palace of Seclusion. Now, I absolutely cannot let you destroy the second deal between this seat and the Palace of Seclusion. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes and without any hesitation, she turned her hand and attacked once again. Her target was very clear, obviously not Evil Tyrant. Chapter 3000. Xiaba squinted his eyes. This lass had detected Leng Yan's motive so quickly? She could even accurately identify the exact location of the evil chi which Leng Yan had released. It seemed, ever since Yi Qing Luo had advanced, her perceptive ability had increased by leaps and bounds. Not only could she differentiate everything around her, furthermore he was able to see through all of his attacks. One must know that he was a Sky Profound 9th grade cultivator, adding on to the evil arts which he had cultivated. Even if it was a Sky Profound cultivator and above who fought with him, they might not be able to gain any advantage in his hands. But Yi Qing Luo could. Xiaba was certain. No matter how Yi Qing Luo advanced, that was just a level up. And that was only a Sky Profound lower level cultivator. But it was just a level up and it had upgraded Yi Qing Luo's powerful technique? Unbelievable. It was simply too unbelievable. Xiaba's eyes were burning with excitement. Cut off the source of the evil chi. As long as she continued, everything would end. Xiaba didn't stop Yi Qing Luo from cutting off the evil chi which Leng Yan had released. On the contrary, he pretended to be vigilant, as though he was worried that Yi Qing Luo would suddenly make a move as he made a prediction to dodge sideways. This dodge opened up a path for Yi Qing Luo, giving Yi Qing Luo an opportunity to dash towards the direction of the evil chi which was spreading. Yi Qing Luo was still guarding against Xiaba, in case Xiaba stopped her from cutting off the source of the evil chi, to stop them from ruining the Miao tribe's plan. However, Evil Tyrant unexpectedly made a preemptive move at the critical moment. This movement seemed to be a prediction error. But Yi Qing Luo felt that something was amiss. For someone like Xiaba, how could he possibly make such an obvious prediction error? Little Qing Luo. Zhou Mo sensed Yi Qing Luo nearing while they were entangled. He retreated backwards and noticed Yi Qing Luo pouncing towards the spreading evil chi as his face turned pale. Little Qing Luo. You can't cut off that evil chi by force. Otherwise the evil energy will corrode your body. Zhou Mo shouted anxiously. Yiqing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. Following that, her charming eyes swiftly shifted onto Xiaba. This was Xiaba's motive? He purposely made a mistake in his movement to lure her into taking the bait and sever the evil energy. After the demonic energy invaded her body. And then used the demonic energy to control her. Damn it. Xiaba saw that his motive was about to be achieved but was stopped by that white-robed young man. He was so infuriated that his face flushed red as he stared viciously at that young man who was approaching Yiqing Luo. If he had known earlier that this white-robed youth would have seen through his intentions, he would not have been able to escape. Earlier on when Yiqing Luo wanted to rush forward to cut off the evil qi, he should not have stopped her. Zhou Mo took quick steps to Yiqing Luo's side as he grabbed one of her arms. With little master and Ah Wu around, what are you running over for? They want to turn all the living beings in the Miao tribe into nothingness, and then directly turn into a void space. Yiqing Luo followed Zhou Mo's force, as she retreated a few steps away from that evil qi which was still spreading. Yiqing Luo's face was filled with anxiety. They are from the Earth realm, people from the Underworld Palace. They don't want to enter the Saintis Institute. They want to destroy the Saintis Institute once and for all. A cold glint flashed across Zhou Mo's eyes as he glared at Xiaba. These people are despicable. Chapter 3001. Don't be silly. Zhou Mo tightened his grip on her arm and lowered his voice. I've heard of Hell Palace's reputation. If you're corroded by the demonic aura of Hell Palace, no matter how strong your willpower is, you won't be able to resist it. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly and lowered her eyes. Now Xiaba was waiting for her to be corroded by the evil energy so that he could control her. Initially, Yiqing Luo was still thinking that there was a possibility that she could rely on her willpower to contend against it. However, Zhou Mo's words had clearly explained everything. The evil aura of the Hell sect was not something that she could restrain. Could it be, did she really have no choice but to use her last resort? Using the power of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. He lured the Historian of Balance to the lower realm. As long as the Historian of Balance arrived, Leng Yan and Xiaba's plan had to be stopped. And the Palace of Umbra would also be investigated. However, if the power of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade really attracted the Historian of Balance from the upper three realms, the secret of her Profound Heart Jade really couldn't be concealed any longer. The lower realm would probably never have peace again. Most importantly, once she suffered a backlash from the Profound Jade Heart, she had no way to personally witness DMO Xian's successful detoxification and safe return. Alright, I'll go help Ah Wu first. Don't act recklessly. With this young lord and Ah Wu here, what are you worried about? This young master will help you get rid of these dregs. Zhou Mo was paying attention to the direction of the Ghost Martial sect and didn't notice Yiqing Luo's current expression. He consoled her with a few words, patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder hard and immediately rushed towards Gui Wu. Due to certain reasons, the fight between Gui Wu and Leng Yan was somewhat restricted. He had to hurry and tell Ghost Martial about what he had heard from Yiqing Luo. Little girl, I've taken a fancy to you, and I want you to follow me unharmed. But since you're so disobedient, then don't blame me for not knowing how to show mercy to my little disciple. Xiaba's sinister eyes flickered with a cold light as he watched Zhou Mo leave. His figure speedily dashed towards Yiqing Luo. Zhou Mo was there just now. He couldn't figure out Zhou Mo's identity. He did not dare to act rashly. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo and Zhou Mo's exchange earlier had already transmitted too much information. It wasn't just because of the unfathomable strength of this white-clad youth called Zhou Mo. The strongest one was the black-robed young man who was fighting with Leng Yan. In other words, he was the Ghost Martial Grandmaster that they spoke of. Everyone could see that. Gui Wu had not even used his full strength. All he did was stop Leng Yan and evade his attacks. Obviously, he was worried about something. If once the Gui Wu no longer cared, even if he and Leng Yan joined hands, they would still be able to suppress Gui Wu. But the commotion it would cause would be too great. Furthermore, their goal was to destroy the Miao tribe. Causing such a commotion. If those people from the upper realm were to turn a blind eye to it, it would be too fake. He had to end the battle quickly. Evil Tyrant urged Leng Yan through the special connection he had with him. While directly making a vicious move, he pulled Yiqing Luo towards him. Little lass, I've given you a sweet taste but you don't want it. Why must you let yourself be riddled with scars? This seed is not someone who has tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Xiaba's fingers turned into a claw. As long as you're still breathing after I bring you back to the underworld palace, this seat will be able to save you. Yi Qingluo's brows creased tightly as the agitation which was suppressed in her heart kept surging. Chapter 3002. Yi Qingluo's thoughts were all placed on how to stop Leng Yan, how to fight for time for Dmo Xian to cure the gu and protect him. Xiaba's time and time again harassment and obstructions had already made Yi Qingluo lose her patience. Her brows were frozen as her vision swept past Zhou Mo and Gui Wu who were entangled in battle. Then she looked towards the brothers and little companions who were fighting against secluded palace. Her brows sunk slightly. The sky filled with evil qi following the continuous battle, started to spread towards the surroundings of the Sacred Maiden Institute. Not too long later, this gust of evil qi would definitely be able to envelop the entire Sacred Maiden Institute. Once it was enveloped by the evil qi, the entire Sacred Maiden Institute would sink into hell. All living beings turned into nothingness, reduced to nothingness. Time was pressing. There was no time for her to make any comprehensive considerations. Now she could only try her best to prevent herself from suffering from the backlash. Yi Qingluo's brows sunk as she directly raised the glower flame fan in her hands, sweeping up 100,000 feet wind wave. Her other hand swiftly pressed onto her profound jade heart. Profound qi was activated. Profound jade heart started to burn. She gripped the glower flame fan tightly as the profound qi encircled it even more. The 100,000 feet wind wave was like a raging wave, directly surging towards Xiaba. Xiaba's heart was filled with the thought of directly suppressing Yi Qingluo, bringing her away forcefully. His attack was to stick close to Yi Qingluo's face, striking at Yi Qingluo from a close distance. But when Yi Qingluo's strike landed, no matter how fast Xiaba's reaction was, he was also swallowed by the 100,000 feet wind wave. That horrifying momentum as compared to when he had just advanced, was much thicker. Xiaba was sent flying, crashing heavily onto the rubble of the ruins. The ground exploded into a huge deep pit. This strike could be said to be completely withstood by Xiaba. He fell into that huge deep pit. His entire body was covered with blood scars. But he wasn't angry, instead he started laughing maniacally. That withered body stood up shakily from the deep pit. The evil qi in his entire body kept seeping into his body. He laughed crazily and malevolently. Good. After advancing, you can still raise your battle prowess in a short period of time. This is too inconceivable. This seat really wants to dig out your profound heart jade and take a look. I want to see just what quality profound heart jade is that it can actually reach such a realm. Hearing evil tyrant's crazed and excited voice, Yi Qingluo's slender brows creased even tighter. This kind of lunatic who could not be caught at all. Yi Qingluo really didn't know how to deal with it. The stronger she is, the more excited Xiaba was, the more excited he became. The more he studied her, the more he wanted to do research on her. To deal with such a lunatic, unless he could really kill him. Otherwise he would harass her over and over again. After all, lunatics were not afraid of death. Just as Yi Qingluo was thinking about how to trap Xiaba, she was secretly mobilizing the profound qi in her body, as it continuously flushed into her profound heart jade. Evil tyrant's laughter suddenly stopped. That terrifying face was tightly scrunched up into a ball. Yi Qingluo noticed this. He quickly looked in the direction of Leng Yan. As expected, Leng Yan had separated from Zhou Mo and Gui Wu. The three of them faced each other, suspended in mid-air. Whereas Leng Yan's gaze looked towards Xiaba. Yi Qingluo's heart thumped. Apparently this Leng Yan and Xiaba were carrying out a secret exchange. What plan did they have? Very quickly Leng Yan and Xiaba gave their answer. Just in this one breath's time. Chapter 3003. Not good. Yi Qingluo's heart turned cold as she followed closely in the direction of Gui Wu and Zhou Mo. However, she was still a step too slow. Bang. Xiaba brought along an incomparably sharp and dense evil qi, and directly attacked in the direction of the ghost warrior. The terrifying profound strength was like a surging wave, rolling and rolling continuously. Evil tyrant's attack was completely unexpected. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo were intimidated by the demonic aura, causing them to take several steps back. They want to switch their line of sight. Yi Qingluo pursed her pink lips tightly. Leng Yan's destructive power is very strong and the evil qi he emits is enough to destroy all living things in the Miao tribe, turning this place into nothingness. They want to use Xiaba to stall the two of you, and then let Leng Yin destroy the Saintis Institute. You are indeed worthy of being my disciple. Xiaba didn't deny it and laughed coldly. So what if you know? Can you stop it? Xiaba let out a cold grin. Without any hesitation, his figure sped forward like a sharp blade. Endless evil energy spread in all directions. On the other hand, Leng Yin found an opportunity. The moment evil tyrant rushed over, he quickly rushed in the direction of the Saintis yard. As he charged forward, the path he took was enveloped by a black aura. The air condensed and space seemed to be on the verge of shattering. In midair, cracks that resembled spiderwebs appeared. After Yi Qing Luo's reminder, Gui Wu shifted his focus and looked at Leng Yin, who had already entered the Saintis courtyard. After seeing the cracks spreading all around, the expression on his face became gloomy. Space explosion. You guys actually want to use this kind of demonic technique? Gui Wu's voice, which had always been calm, was now brimming with anger. You want to shatter this space? Zhou Mo turned pale with fright. Do you know what will happen if the space explodes? Xiaba laughed sinisterly. Consequences? What does it have to do with me in the underworld palace? The faces of Gui Wu and Zhou Mo turned extremely ugly. They had already made up their minds to push all the blame onto the Palace of Darkness. That was why he dared to use such evil arts so brazenly. Space exploded. It was a demonic technique that could destroy a confined space. This was also what Evil Tyrant had been talking about. Let the Miao tribe fall into the void? Bang bang bang. Under the shroud of evil energy, the Holy Maiden Institute set off an earth-shattering explosion that was enough to deafen the eardrums. The destructive power released by Leng Yin had spread throughout the entire Saintis courtyard. The Saintis Institute, which had already been reduced to ruins because of the war, was now in ruins. Under such a powerful destructive force, Feng Lin's body trembled. It was a complete mess. The speed of destruction caused everyone to turn pale with fright. Wave after wave of horrifying dark force was still surging. Xiaoyi Jinzi, run, run. Yi Qing Luo's pupils dilated as she cried out sharply, Qiyan Shiju, quick! Protect them and evacuate first. For a time, there was chaos outside the Saintis courtyard. Yan Xiaoyi and the others were protected by Shiju and Qiyan. And Yi Qing Luo's reminder was timely. After the few of them retreated, they were not injured by the powerful destructive force. But the secluded Darkness Palace disciples who were still searching for Dmo Xian's whereabouts in the Holy Maiden courtyard. He didn't even have the time to scream. They were directly swallowed by this powerful and boundless energy. Those lives, not even a drop of blood was spilled. They were completely swallowed and turned into nothingness. Chapter 3004. They wanted to escape. But under this kind of power, they couldn't move an inch. Boom boom boom. Bam bam bam. The deafening sound continued to explode. The entire Sacred Maiden Institute space was filled with black cracks as the earth quaked and the mountains shook. The thick and boundless chi waves were still spreading out. The ghost martial artist, who was still fighting with Xiaba, was shaken out of the battle range by the powerful chi. His cold eyes looked at the Saintis Institute. He frowned as he spoke in a low voice, Sacred Maiden Institute. Can't be saved. Zhou Mo elbowed Gui Wu hard as he shot a glance towards Yi Qing Luo's direction, indicating for him to shut up. However, Gui Wu didn't say a word. That didn't mean that Xiaba, who had victory in his hands, wouldn't ridicule them. Ha ha ha. That's right. Leng Yin has already marked the area where the space will explode. This Sacred Maiden Institute, everything will disappear. He laughed sinisterly as his eyes were filled with madness. The next one is the Miao tribe's turn. Do you think that you can stop it? And at this moment, Leng Yin was very cooperative as he exploded with an increasingly intense destructive power. Everyone felt a violent tremor beneath their feet. Sacred Maiden Institute started to collapse downwards. The majestic destructive power was like a tornado of magnitude 10 or more, violently devouring everything. Xian. This scene made Yi Qing Luo's pupils constricted abruptly. Her eyes turned red as she almost lost all her rationality. Her feet moved as she immediately dashed towards the direction of Sacred Maiden Institute. Qing Luo. Little Qing Luo. Gui Wu and Zhou Mo cried out in shock. One by one they wanted to go up and stop Yi Qing Luo. But after Sacred Maiden Institute collapsed and Xiaba's words, Yi Qing Luo had already lost all ability to think. Space exploded. Even DMO Xian, who was in Sacred Maiden Institute's secret room, would also be engulfed by this force. How could she let her Xian be engulfed by the space explosion? You ants also want to stop me? Leng Yan sensed Yiqing Luo's approaching figure as he sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. His hand suddenly moved as his palm flipped. Immediately, a burst of black qi exploded from his palm, shooting straight towards Yiqing Luo's back. The raging energy was like a ferocious wild beast as it struck Yiqing Luo's back without any hesitation. Yiqing Luo gave a muffled groan as her face turned pale. He spat out a mouthful of blood. However, this did not stop her from moving forward. The red blur was still rushing toward the Saintis Institute at the fastest speed. The entire space of the Saintis courtyard was filled with layers of evil energy. It was like a sharp blade cutting through everything around it. Whereas Yiqing Luo seemed as though she didn't notice anything as she kept on rushing towards the Sacred Maiden courtyard. Endless evil energy enveloped everything. The people outside could not see what was happening in the Saintis yard at all. Yo, no wonder that old fogey Xiaba has taken a fancy to you. You're indeed a rare talent to be able to withstand my palm strike. Leng Yan's tone was filled with surprise as his pair of evil cold eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's figure. He licked his lips and laughed sinisterly. What a pity, you will also be destroyed along with this broken place. Yiqing Luo's breathing tightened. Her chest felt stuffy and there seemed to be a fishy sweetness in her throat as it kept on surging. She panted lightly as her eyes were filled with determination. The belief of seeing DMO Xian and taking him away made her not fall. Chapter 3005. Gui Wu's expression turned solemn as he tightly knitted his brows. Zhou Mo gritted his teeth. These people are from the Earth domain. What they were doing now was completely destroying the peace in the lower realm. Even if we make a move and the higher-ups blame us, we are doing this for the sake of balance in the lower realm. Gui Wu's face remained solemn, not saying a word. Zhou Mo simply shook off Gui Wu's hand. Forget it. You're afraid of being investigated by the higher-ups, but I'm not. With that, he flicked his sleeves and was about to rush to the Saintis courtyard. Before he could move, his shoulder was pressed down by Gui Wu's hand. It's not that I don't want to make a move, it's that, there's no need for us to make a move now. Gui Wu stared in the direction of the Holy Maiden Institute as he spoke indifferently. What do you mean? Turning his head, Zhou Mo slapped away Gui Wu's hand. This slap was filled with anger and it was also very powerful. Gui Wu's hands had turned red from all the clapping. However, Gui Wu did not care about it. Retracting his hand, a profound look appeared on his face. This is that girl's tribulation, we can't stop it. *CK. Zhou Mo cursed. I don't have the time to listen to your mysterious talk. If it was someone else, Leng Yan's move just now would have crippled that girl even if it didn't kill her. Gui Wu narrowed his deep and unfathomable eyes. As for that lass, she managed to hold on. Sister was hurt by that monster. All of a sudden, Kitty Lee rushed forward and grabbed onto Gui Wu's arm. What do you guys think happened to Big Sister? The Saintis yard was shrouded in a large evil aura. When Yen Xiaoyi and the rest looked over, it was a black and oppressive evil aura. Among those present, only Gui Wu and Zhou Mo could see what was happening in the Saintis Institute. Zhou Mo hugged Kitty Lee, glanced at Gui Wu and lowered his voice. Ah Wu said nothing will happen, so little Qing Luo will definitely be fine. Kitty Lee's eyes were red and her cheeks were puffed up. The two of you, why didn't you stop them? They killed so many people. The two of you took action to maintain peace and justice. I'm not sure if anything will happen to Qing Luo. Gui Wu did not have any intention of comforting her. His voice was extremely cold as he continued, there's a mysterious power protecting her on her body. However, how long it can protect her will depend on her own luck. You. Kitty Lee was so angry that she clenched her claws tightly. In the end, you just don't want to make a move. You're afraid of getting into trouble. Little wild cat. Zhou Mo's brows creased as he called out to Kitty Lee in a low voice, as his arms hugged her even tighter. All of us are very worried about little Qing Luo. If he's really afraid of getting into trouble, he wouldn't be standing here. Kitty Lee turned her head angrily and struggled. You're not going to save him. Kitty could go by herself. Even if I die, I want to die with Big Sister. Just as they were messing around, Gui Wu suddenly said in a deep voice, the space-shattering demonic technique has begun. Kitty Lee was stunned. Their faces immediately turned pale, and they all stared at the Saintis yard, which was surrounded by evil qi. The sky was so dark that they couldn't see anything. Leng Yan's destructive power and the might of the space-shattering demonic technique had exceeded Yiqing Luo's imagination. Earlier Leng Yan's palm strike, although she had swiftly circulated the profound energy in her body to conjure an array barrier to block that strike. But after all, she had withstood a third of the power. This third of the power made it hard for her to breathe. If it wasn't for the fact that she had advanced earlier, and her own internal injury was almost healed, she was afraid that she would have become a corpse by now. She took a deep breath as she raised her eyes and looked in front. She was about to reach the Saintess Pavilion. Chapter 3006. But just at this moment, bam! A deafening explosion of energy was heard from behind. Endless evil qi covered the sky, violently and wantonly surged over. The evil qi filled the sky, tearing those black cracks in the air. Yiqing Luo only felt a violent impact on her back. Her body was sent flying by the demonic aura and she landed heavily on the ground. That evil qi, terrifying and overbearing. It was like a raging storm, swallowing everything in its path. The cracks in the space bit by bit tore. The surrounding air was constantly being squeezed, obliterated. Yiqing Luo struggled, trying to climb up from the ground. However, that evil aura was like Mount Tai pressing down on her, making it hard for her to breathe. Not only that, under the impact of this evil qi the space was torn. Yiqing Luo could feel her internal organs in her body were stirring. So painful, as if in the next moment she would be swallowed by this evil qi, turning into ashes. This kind of pain was not only physical pain. Even her soul seemed to be sucked away by this evil qi. Yiqing Luo couldn't tell what kind of feeling this was. Like there were numerous thin needles, densely packed, each sharp and cold, piercing her body. Pain. Heart-wrenching pain. Continued to spread in her body. That kind of soul-stripping. That kind of pain, as if her body was about to be minced, about to be incinerated, made her consciousness a little dazed. Sigh. Suddenly in the haze she vaguely heard a helpless sigh. That voice seemed to be right beside her ear. Or as if it came from her heart. Who was it? Who was sighing? Yiqing Luo's consciousness regained some clarity. Valuing relationships and loyalty is a good thing, but for this relationship to lose your life, is it really worth it? That voice rang softly beside her ear again. The voice was gentle, extremely pleasing to the ear. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered absent-mindedly. Her slender fingers slightly had the strength to move. Bit by bit she curled her fingers tightly. Worth it? Worth it? Worth it? Because it was Xian, so it was worth it. You're so silly. That gentle voice gave another long sigh. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she struggled to open her eyes, trying to see clearly who was talking to her. However, as soon as he opened his eyes, immediately, a burning sensation surged up from his wrist. Yiqing Luo moaned painfully. And this feeling of the surging flames. Her consciousness also became much clearer. The hazy scene in front of him gradually became clearer. Apart from the surging evil aura, there was nothing else in the surroundings. It was as if the voice just now was just a figment of her imagination. Xiao. The sound of evil energy rushing about destroyed everything in the Holy Maiden courtyard. Wherever the evil aura went, it was reduced to nothingness. She held her breath. She could clearly feel that the surging evil aura was constantly trying to devour her. The burning sensation on his wrist continued. The heat was rising bit by bit. She frowned in pain, but her consciousness became clearer. However, her body was still being squeezed by the evil aura, and she was completely unable to move. She bit her lower lip, trying her best to restrain herself from being swallowed by the evil aura. As she vigilantly gathered her mental energy, she sized up the surroundings. Suddenly, her pupils contracted slightly as it fixed on a certain direction. The surging evil aura kept moving towards that direction. Her heart suddenly trembled fiercely. Xian. Chapter 3007. That direction was the direction of Saint Maiden Pavilion. Xian was still in the secret room of Saint Maiden Pavilion. In front of her eyes, a tall figure seemed to appear. That purple-robed man with peerless elegance was smiling at her. Her eyelashes fluttered. Xian. When she saw this figure, her body seemed to be filled with energy. Her legs moved with difficulty as she pounced towards the direction of that figure. But at the next moment, endless surging evil qi madly surged towards that figure. Yiqing Luo's hands missed. She fell heavily onto the ground. She looked helplessly at the surging evil chi in front of her, completely swallowing that peerless elegance figure. A Xian. A Xian. A Xian. Yi Qing Luo's heart felt a dull pain. She tried her best to call out Dmo Xian's name, but her throat seemed to be blocked by something, making her unable to make a single sound. Tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. Drop by drop fell onto her wrist. The scorching heat once again engulfed her. Still struggling on your deathbed? Leng Yan smiled sinisterly, his face filled with complacency. Bit by bit he shifted his gaze to the opposite, on that row of people. On seeing those people, each and every one of them, their eyes were filled with hatred, as though they couldn't wait to cut him into 1,000 pieces. His smile became even more joyous. He loved this kind of gaze. Loved this kind of feeling that they hated him but couldn't do anything to him. This was the path of the strong which he pursued. No one dared to go against all his actions. So what if they hated him? What could they do to him? No living being can escape from this kind of evil art. You'd better give up. Leng Yan laughed sinisterly, not concealing his own complacency. This Seat's disciple is still inside. You should at least spare her life. Although Xiaoba's words had the intention to blame Leng Yan, but that tone was filled with pride. They, the people from Hell Palace, would absolutely not lose. Unless they were unwilling. Otherwise, there was no mission which could not be completed. What's the use of having that kind of disciple who doesn't know how to listen? Leng Yan gave a snort as he didn't have any good impression towards Yi Qing Luo. Xiaoba laughed cruelly. His gaze swept coldly towards Gui Wu and Zhou Mo, who had no intention of taking action. Since the two of you don't plan on interfering in this matter, the two of you should pretend that you don't know anything about today's matter. The Underworld Palace's target is only the two of them inside. His withered hand pointed to the Saintess Yard, which had been swallowed by the evil aura. Kitty Lee, who was in Zomo's arms, couldn't hold it in any longer and roared, "You don't know? You dare to hurt my sister like this, and you want us to pretend that we don't know anything? Even if Kitty fights to the death, I'll bury all of you with me." Kitty. Zhou Mo hugged Kitty Lee tightly, his long arms pulling her into his embrace. Kitty Lee's cute little face was now covered in tears. Zhou Mo felt a dull pain in his heart. He tightened his grip. If Qing Luo dies, I will definitely not live on alone. Yan Xiaoyi clenched the black sickle blade in her hand tightly, her eyes filled with ruthless coldness. Qiao Jin's hand, which was wrapped around Yan Xiaoyi's slender waist, tightened. He opened his mouth wanting to say something. But looking at the Saintess Yard, which was covered with evil aura, eventually he shut his mouth. Apparently he had tacitly agreed to Yan Xiaoyi's words. Ha. A bunch of ants also want to shine with the sun and moon? Leng Yan swept a disdainful glance at those people. In his eyes. Chapter 3008. And what you said makes sense. Suddenly, a low and deep voice slowly sounded. Everyone's line of sight turned towards the source of the voice. The one who spoke was the silent Gui Wu, who had been the target of everyone's complaints. Yan Xiaoyi's face immediately darkened. Master Gui Wu, we call you master because of your identity and we respect you. However, your actions today are not worthy of our respect for you. Qiao Jin pinched her wrist, indicating for her to stop speaking. Yan Xiaoyi was already angry, her eyes red as she stared at Gui Wu. Master Gui Wu is afraid of getting into trouble and is not willing to interfere in this matter. We have no complaints, after all, we are not on the same side. So, since Master Gui Wu only wants to watch from the side, then there is no need to help them and ridicule us. Yan Xiaoyi's words caused the scene to become extremely awkward. But no one spoke up to stop Yan Xiaoyi. Obviously, the others were also full of complaints towards Gui Wu's actions. But, just as Zhou Mo was racking his brains trying to ease the atmosphere, the main character who was being criticized simply did not care about Yan Xiaoyi's words. Instead, he stared at Xiaoba's direction and said word by word. You guys are very self-aware. You two ants want to shine as brightly as the sun and moon? Instantly, the few angry people blinked their eyes, unable to react to the meaning of Gui Wu's words. The smiles on Xiaoba's and Leng Yan's faces also stiffened. Leng Yan's arrogant face instantly darkened as he sneered. Ants? A little rat that doesn't even dare to reveal his identity. I did not teach you a lesson and you really think you're something? After saying that, his entire body surged with flames and he was about to attack Gui Wu. But Gui Wu's expression did not change. In the depths of his cold eyes, there was a trace of coldness. Coming. Gui Wu lightly spat out 2 words. Leng Yin frowned, thinking that Gui Wu was deliberately mystifying things. His figure was as fast as lightning, like an arrow released from a bow. The evil aura shrouded Gui Wu's direction. Following his actions, a powerful destructive power surged forth. Just as the evil aura was about to reach Gui Wu, suddenly, a burst of profound force colliding was heard. That thick and vast Shen Qi exploded in midair. The dark force rippled, and the surrounding spiritual qi began to ripple. Leng Yin was forced to take a few steps back by the dark force and stopped his attack. This power? No, it can't be. Leng Yin cried out in disbelief. He quickly looked in the direction of the Saintess Yard. He saw, standing on top of the Holy Maiden courtyard, which was filled with evil energy, the girl who looked like she would die in the next second spread her arms, her red dress fluttering in the wind. Then an extremely domineering aura erupted from the girl's body. That power attracted all the spiritual energy in the surroundings, and it started to gather towards her. Ground, air, space, it began to shake violently. Xiaoba's pupils contracted upon seeing this. His cold eyes were filled with astonishment. How is this possible? How is it possible to escape from the devouring of the spatial explosion? The evil technique of the spatial explosion would never fail. All the creatures in the Saintess Yard should have been turned into nothingness. Chapter 3009. No, not only alive. Xiaoba's breathing was suffocating. She advanced. Didn't she just advance? In such a short period of time she can advance again. Yes, she advanced to the profound grade again. Yiqing Luo's profound grade was constantly rising. Moreover, it was a kind of explosive rise. The coquettish red glow shrouded the young lady's slender body, blending in with that fiery red robe. Like a blooming rose in flames, blooming till the end. Sky profound 4th grade. Sky profound 5th grade. Sky profound 6th grade, along with the advancement of profound grade. The coquettish red glow around Yiqing Luo also sped up, spinning faster and faster. Spinning faster and faster. Finally, the spinning red glow suddenly surged towards Yiqing Luo's body. Endless red glow enveloped Yiqing Luo. Just at this moment in the ruins the ground surged. Faintly, a sharp childlike voice suddenly rang. Chi sensed Master is nearby, it's all right. With Master around, everything will be fine. That voice was intermittent. As though it was very far away but also seemed very close. The others couldn't hear it clearly. At this moment, the young lady who was suspended in mid-air, as though she was isolated from the world, suddenly opened her eyes. Her gaze swiftly looked towards the direction of the voice, looking over. Boom! Only to hear a roar. Violent, shocking, profound energy exploded on Yiqing Luo's body. Her breathing gradually stabilized. The coquettish red glow calmly lingered around Yiqing Luo's body. Sky profound 8th grade. Yiqing Luo's profound grade finally stopped at the realm of sky profound 8th grade. Xiaoba was shocked by this surge of energy as he retreated several steps. The gaze which he looked at Yiqing Luo was no longer that kind of excitement and ecstasy, but was filled with disbelief and fear. Just a little bit more. Yiqing Luo was just a little bit away from advancing to sky profound 9th grade. If it wasn't for the voice earlier interrupting Yiqing Luo was very likely to continue advancing. One must know. When he first met Yiqing Luo was just a low-leveled cultivator who had just stepped into Sky Profound realm. Later on when she advanced, she was only at Sky Profound 2nd grade. But now, in a short period of time, if it wasn't for the voices coming from the Sacred Maiden Institute which disrupted Yiqing Luo's thoughts, Yiqing Luo's profound grade would surpass his. Xiaoba, who had witnessed this scene with his own eyes, could not believe his eyes. He couldn't believe that a profound practitioner could raise his cultivation by so much in such a short period of time. Moreover, he didn't seem to be uncomfortable at all. Logically speaking, even if he relied on evil arts or other pills to quickly raise his profound rank. However, with his body's condition, there was no way he could withstand the sudden increase in profound strength. If it was more than what his body could bear, it was very likely that he would suffer a backlash. If it was light, his profound heart jade would be destroyed and he would lose all of his profound strength. In the worst case, his internal organs would rupture and he would die. However, Yiqing Luo had consecutively risen several grades. Moreover, it was the Sky Profound grade, this extremely difficult to advance profound grade. Yiqing Luo's body had not only withstood sky-profound 8th grade profound energy. Moreover, it was obvious that he had fused this boundless and powerful energy with his own body. What kind of pervert was she? Was this little girl really only 15 years old? Xiaba and Leng Yan were not the only ones. Everyone on the scene was shocked. Chapter 30:10. Everyone's gazes shifted towards Gui Wu in unison. Could it be? Right from the start, Gui Wu had no intention to make a move. Not because he was afraid of getting into trouble, but because he had long known that Yiqing Luo would advance at this moment. So he said that there was no need for him to make a move. Facing their gazes, Gui Wu's expression didn't change and his gaze didn't shift at all. Only using a deep and serene gaze, he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yiqing Luo could feel the surging profound energy in her body. Her entire body, limbs and bones were filled with boundless energy. Enveloped by the red glow, it made her eyes look enchanting. She looked towards the direction where the sound came from. Without any hesitation, she flew over. That was Chi-Chi's voice. She could vaguely sense Chi-Chi's presence. Chi-Chi was fine. Then, Yi and Xian would definitely be fine. She would not let the so-called space explosion destroy the sacred maiden compound. She would not let anyone hurt Xian. Yiqing Luo's figure was extremely swift. Leng Yan sensed Yiqing Luo's intention and his expression changed instantly as he shouted Xiaba's name and flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Just as he was flying upwards, Leng Yan swiftly released a thick and overbearing evil qi to mend the crack which was broken by Yiqing Luo earlier. But, just as his evil qi was about to fill up that crack, what met him was a ray of red glow. Leng Yan only managed to see a remnant shadow brushing past. What entered his eyes was a red dress fluttering in the wind and an incoming leg. Bam! That leg landed directly on Leng Yan's face. Ah! Leng Yan cried out miserably as his body flew backwards. He covered his face with both hands. Blood gushed out wildly as it seeped out from his fingers. This leg, Yiqing Luo totally didn't show any mercy as it brought along a thick and terrifying energy as it kicked downwards. If it wasn't for Leng Yan's swift reaction. After being kicked, Zhang Wuji's expression changed. He swiftly mobilized his profound energy to block Yiqing Luo's energy. Otherwise this kick would absolutely explode Leng Yan's head. Xiaba's figure quickly appeared in front of Leng Yan. A pair of sinister cold eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. Scram! Icy cold words spat out from Yiqing Luo's lips. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she turned around and headed towards that gap once again. But Yiqing Luo's figure flashed past. That red light, in the midst of the evil aura that filled the sky. It was as if he had opened up a straight path. It also tore a long hole in the space that Leng Yan had created with great difficulty. As a result, the space explosion demonic technique was forced to stop. Xiaba's eyes widened. His expression congealed and his body was like a missile, chasing after Yiqing Luo's figure. Wanna leave? He waved his palms out, and the evil aura seemed to be able to deal with the evil aura in the sky with ease. Yiqing Luo frowned as her expression sunk slightly and her feet moved. Just as evil tyrant was about to attack, the ghastly flame fan flipped. In the midst of this evil aura, it was like a flowing flame shining with a bewitching light. Boom boom boom. Two bursts of profound energy collided. Instantly the hole in the space which had been shaken till it tore even more. Xiaba frowned. Having his attack blocked by Yiqing Luo once again, he felt that there was no light on his face and his heart was burning with rage. Just sky profound 8th grade. He was a sky profound 9th grade cultivator. Chapter 30:11. Especially when Yiqing Luo had just advanced to 8th grade and it was continuous advancement. Even if her body could take this kind of burden. But, regarding the control of profound energy, Yiqing Luo was definitely not his match. He didn't believe it. He was the king of Hell Palace, how could he lose to a 15-year-old young lady? The sinister coldness in Xiaba's eyes grew even more and he didn't suppress his energy as he clenched his fists and stomped his feet. Immediately, a majestic and thick profound energy surged out from Xiaba's body. The entire space immediately sank into a violent tremor. Little lass, I'll let you see the power of Hell Palace. Xiaba laughed sinisterly as his tone was filled with killing intent. Following that, Xiaba's speed was obviously not on the same level as before. Moreover, the power he used was shockingly terrifying. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as her eyes were filled with impatience. She didn't have any extra thoughts to waste on Xiaba. She rushed into the secret room to check on Ah Xian's situation. But, apparently, Xiaba didn't intend to let her off so easily. The terrifying profound energy was accompanied by a tyrannical murderous intent. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she turned around and her footwork was extremely strange. It was just an afterimage. Xiaba's attack brushed past her. Yiqing Luo's feet moved again as she unexpectedly shifted to Xiaba's back. Her eyes were slightly cold as the glower flame fan in her hands was ignited with a ball of raging flame as it shot towards Xiaba's back, aiming at the position of his heart as it fell down. From the first time she had advanced, Yiqing Luo could obviously feel that her reaction and sensing ability had increased tremendously. Just using her eyes she could see through Xiaba's attack. Now this surge of energy in her body made her profound grade surge continuously. Her speed, attack power and explosive power had all increased. Facing Xiaba she could do it with ease. But Yiqing Luo's reaction was fast and unexpected. As the madman from hell, Xiaba's reaction wasn't bad at all. Just when Yiqing Luo made her first move to move behind him, Xiaba had already reacted. Just as Yiqing Luo's attack was about to land, Xiaba swiftly turned around and locked Yiqing Luo's wrist. Hiss! The red glow on Yiqing Luo's arm instantly turned into a sharp blade, unrestrainedly piercing through Xiaba's hand. Xiaba sucked in a breath of cold air as he felt the pain. But he didn't let go of Yiqing Luo's wrist because of this piercing pain. On the contrary, his 5 fingers interlocked tightly as he pulled Yiqing Luo towards him. Trying to play mind games with me? Xiaba sneered coldly, his eyes flashing with a bloodthirsty ruthlessness. He tightened his grip. He totally didn't care that his palm had been slashed by the sharp blade that Yiqing Luo had released, causing his hand to be filled with blood. His hand, which contained evil qi, kept tightening. It was as if he was going to break her wrist. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale. Xiaba was tugging at the wrist that held the azure dew bracelet. The place where his 5 fingers were pinching was also on the veined patterns of the azure dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo only felt that the raging energy within her body seemed to be suppressed by something, blocking her limbs and bones, giving her a feeling that she was unable to recover. She struggled. Xiaba tightened his grip. The energy in her limbs and bones seemed as if it was going to burst her meridians. Yiqing Luo's face turned paler by several shades as a chilly glint surfaced in her eyes. The gathered profound energy swiftly flushed onto her right arm. Chapter 30:12. This burn had obviously increased the heat. The burning feeling was getting more and more obvious. Xiaba's expression turned extremely gloomy. The evil air which lingered around his face started to flow rapidly. Especially that wound on his face as well as the surging birthmark, was so sinister that it made one's scalp go numb. But even if it was being burned and cut by this scorching profound energy, Xiaba still didn't loosen his grip on her wrist. The features on his face turned increasingly sinister, as it was extremely distorted. The burning got more and more intense. Xiaba's hand increased the strength. Yiqing Luo was being pressured by the increasing strength, as the profound energy in her body kept on surging and expanding, trying to find an outlet to vent it out. What was Xiaba trying to do? Wasn't he worried that his hand would be crippled by the profound energy? Wasn't he afraid, if he continued to be restrained, would he also suffer from the backlash of this profound energy? Just as Yiqing Luo was guessing Xiaba's motive, she heard Yan Xiaoyi and the others' cries of alarm. "Qing Luo! Be careful behind you!" Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. Almost subconsciously her footsteps moved. But the hand which was locked on her wrist was holding her down firmly. Not only that, Xiaba even grabbed her wrist, pulling her towards his direction. Yiqing Luo's footwork which she was about to display was interrupted, and she staggered forward. Bam! A palm landed squarely on her back. Yiqing Luo felt an intense pain, as though her 4 limbs were about to be torn apart. Her internal organs were twisting together in pain. She heard Yan Xiaoyi and the others' anxious cries. But her consciousness was a little blurry. She took a deep breath and bit her lower lip. The sweet taste of blood started to spread in her mouth. The stinging pain also caused her eyes to gradually clear up a little. She clearly saw, behind her, that unrecognizable, extremely comical and terrifying face, as well as that pair of vicious murderous eyes. It was Leng Yan. Xiaba had been restraining her. It was to create a chance for Leng Yan to kill her. Yiqing Luo's breathing froze. The excruciating pain in his 5 viscera and 6 bowels attacked him again. She frowned in pain. Leng Yan's cold voice resounded in her ears. What? You can't bear to part with it just like that? This girl is too abnormal. I don't have the confidence to control her. Xiaba lowered his head as he stared at his hand, which was filled with blood because he had grabbed hold of Yiqing Luo. This lass's regenerative ability is just too strong. If I don't kill her, leaving her alive would be trouble. Killing intent surged in Leng Yan's eyes. I'll kill her. Don't feel bad. He was asking a question. But while he was speaking, he had already raised his palm once again, pressing it down towards the top of Yiqing Luo's skull. This palm strike was ferocious and carried boundless killing intent. His face was disfigured by a little girl from the lower realm. This made Leng Yan, who had always claimed to be the king with the strongest destructive power, lose all face. The only way to appease him was, kill Yiqing Luo, use Yiqing Luo's blood to eliminate his anger. Yiqing Luo could obviously feel that evil aura which was filled with killing intent, charging towards her with irresistible force. Little by little, her slightly misty and charming eyes became cold and fierce. At this moment, his extremely pale face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. Chapter 13. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly turned cold. Xiaba's right hand, which was held tightly by Xiaba, suddenly clenched into a fist. The demonic and crazy red light cut through the air with a whoosh and instantly wrapped around her right arm. The scorching heat burned again. Originally they thought that Yiqing Luo, who had suffered from Leng Yan's palm, absolutely would not have any energy left to counterattack. Towards Yiqing Luo, Xiaba wasn't as vigilant as before. As the burning sensation surged, Li Tianlan's eyes widened. He instinctively loosened his grip. When he came back to his senses, he wanted to tighten his grip again. However, it was also at this moment that he let go. This gave the Azure Dew bracelet a chance to vent. Swish swish swish, bang. Explosions could be heard in the air. The profound energy that had been suppressed in his body due to Xiaba's tight grip on the Azure Dew bracelet's vein patterns. At this moment, money was flowing out like it was free. It poured out in torrents. Endless demonic red light washed away the evil aura that enveloped the Holy Maiden Institute. Xiaba didn't even have time to react before he felt a dull pain in his chest. His entire body was pushed back a dozen steps by the crazily surging power. In the end, it smashed heavily into the ruins. However, this was not the end. Xiaba clutched his chest and vomited blood. His face was filled with shock as he stared in Yiqing Luo's direction. He raised his head. A fist filled with killing intent smashed down. Xiaba let out a miserable shriek. The surrounding ruins collapsed. His dark force surged and his strength surged like a whirlwind. With Yiqing Luo's feet as the epicenter, the surroundings exploded into a huge deep pit. Xiaba lay limply in the huge pit, his mouth full of blood. His breathing was so weak that it seemed like it would stop at any moment. Yiqing Luo's sudden outburst made Leng Yan's pupils constrict. While Yiqing Luo was dealing with Xiaba, he quickly retreated. However, in the next instant, the girl standing in the deep pit raised the corner of her lips into a bloodthirsty and treacherous smile. Don't be anxious now, it's your turn. As the bewitching and ruthless voice came to an end, Leng Yan's heart skipped a beat. He opened his eyes wide vigilantly, sensing Yiqing Luo's direction. However, in the next moment, the young girl was already like an arrow that had left the bow, attacking him head-on. Just as Leng Yan was about to dodge, the young girl's figure immediately disappeared before his eyes. Instead, it was replaced by a majestic, spiraling, gigantic fire dragon. The fire dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws, as if it wanted to swallow him whole. Insignificant skill. Leng Yan's face darkened. He coldly snorted and quickly responded. However, his cold snort didn't even have time to finish. The fire dragon broke through his counterattack and bit down on his face. Bang. Leng Yan's body was smashed into the ground by the force of the fire dragon. Leng Yan groaned in pain, feeling like he was being burned by a raging fire. At the same time, the flying fire dragon suddenly dissipated. The slender and petite figure slowly appeared. Her face was as cold as ice and her eyes were devoid of any emotion. She stared fixedly at Leng Yan and Xiaba, who were lying in two deep pits, howling in pain but unable to resist. Qing Luo. You're too incredible. Sister, you're the person that Kitty admires the most. Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi and the others were so shocked by this scene that they couldn't close their mouths. On seeing those two mysterious and powerful people who had lost their battle power, They immediately went forward with a face full of excitement and agitation. But, at the next moment. Chapter 30:14. Qing Luo. The few of them's joyous expression froze on their faces. The few of them immediately rushed forward, trying to catch Qing Luo. But a figure with an even faster speed overtook them. Yan Xiaoyi's footsteps halted as she frowned at that person's back. Young sect master Gu? This person was Gu Jingyu, who had regained his energy and rushed over in a hurry. Gu Jingyu had just rushed over when he saw Qing Luo's falling figure. His mind went blank immediately. His body had instinctively rushed towards Qing Luo's direction. But Gu Jingyu had yet to get near. Suddenly a cold breeze brushed past his face. The air, which was filled with blood, was inexplicably tainted with a layer of sandalwood scent. Following that, he saw a tall figure, bringing that falling young lady into his arms. The two of them slowly landed on the ground. Gu Jingyu's footsteps instantly froze on the spot. His body also stiffened. He looked at the scene in front of him in a daze, as his eyes kept on contracting and expanding. And behind him, the few of them who were chasing up when they saw that person clearly. All of their faces revealed an ecstatic expression. Overlord. Overlord. You're back. That tall figure, dressed in a flowing purple robe, was a noble and elegant man. Just standing there. He gave off a chilling, overbearing aura, powerful to the extreme. Other than Diamo Xian, who else could it be? The Nirvana Realm's legend. The Overlord who made everyone tremble in fear. He was finally back. Moreover, look at the Overlord's action of catching Qing Luo. The Overlord's gaze towards Qing Luo. That was obvious. Obviously the Gu had been cured successfully. The few of them were so agitated that their eyes were brimming with tears. The Overlord had rushed over in time. Qing Luo would absolutely be fine. Qing Luo? Beside him, Gu Jingyu opened his mouth hoarsely, as he stared unwillingly at the young lady in the man's arms, as he clenched his fists tightly. V was a little faster. A little faster. The one who was hugging Qing Luo in his arms, was him. Diamo Xian heard his voice as he frowned slightly. He raised his eyes as his frosty peach blossom eyes, as he shot a cold glance at Gu Jingyu. That gaze was gloomy and cold. It was just a glance. Gu Jingyu's face instantly turned pale. He was so frightened that he took a few steps back. Xian? Suddenly, the voice of the person in his arms sounded like a gossamer. Diamo Xian swiftly lowered his eyes and looked at the young lady in his arms. The girl's long eyelashes trembled slightly. In the haze, she seemed to see a familiar face. The familiar scent of sandalwood filled his nostrils. The exhaustion in her body unknowingly loosened. She wanted to laugh. She smiled at him, who she had been thinking about day and night. She tried to lift her hand. She wanted to touch the face that she missed so much. However, she didn't even have the strength to lift the corners of her mouth. He couldn't even lift his hand. At the same time, his body and mind relaxed. Her vision darkened and she fell into a deep sleep. Little Luo, a hoarse voice spilled out from Diamo Xian's thin lips. His arms tightened around the girl in his embrace. The girl's delicate body was as light as a feather. His hands were trembling. His heart seemed to be soaked in ice frost. Especially the young lady's pale complexion pierced his eyes. His gloomy peach blossom eyes were surging with gloomy light as it fluctuated violently. Secluded palace. Kill without mercy. The icy cold words were spat out from Diamo Xian's mouth. Chapter 30:15. How could he possibly? In a corner not far from the Sacred Maiden Institute, the lady who was curled up on the back of the huge magical beast seemed to have lost all her energy as she laid on the magical beast's back. The lady stared in shock at the Sacred Maiden Institute at that tall figure. Her heart was filled with endless fear. I will protect you. The black-robed man behind her squatted down and took the lady into his arms as he comforted her gently. Don't be afraid, I won't let anything happen to you. These two people were Wolf Saint Magic and Fox Saint Magic. They had been hiding in the dark. They were thinking of waiting for the helpers from the Hell Palace to successfully exterminate the Sacred Maiden Institute. Then they would appear and snatch the credit. But they had not expected this at all. Qing Luo was actually so tenacious. She was able to break through her limits time and time again, surpassing herself. And just based on her own strength, she completely oppressed the two experts from the Hell Palace. One must know. When the Palace Lord mentioned the Hell Palace, His tone was filled with the determination to win. They had heard of the Hell Palace's prestige. But these two people in the Hell Palace, whose abilities even the Palace Lord thought highly of, were completely oppressed by Yiqing Luo. Now Diamo Xian had appeared safe and sound. From Diamo Xian's tone earlier, they could totally hear it. How deep was Diamo Xian's accumulated anger right now? Didn't Fourth Elder Miao said. He was poisoned by the Miao tribe's ancestors' venom, and it's a double venom of centrifugal venom and love venom. Wolf Saint Magic hugged the trembling person as he comforted her gently. Just based on that newly appointed Miao Yi, it's absolutely impossible to cure the venom in Diamo Xian's body. There's a possibility that Diamo Xian sensed that Yiqing Luo was in danger and forced himself to come over to save Yiqing Luo. As though to convince Fox Saint Magic, or to convince himself, Wolf Saint Magic nodded his head vigorously. Diamo Xian is absolutely putting on an act now. His large palm rubbed Fox Saint Magic's head. I'll let the blood sacrifice bring you away. Fox Saint Magic grabbed the magical beast beneath him, which was the blood sacrifice's fur. Then you, what about you? I said before I will protect you. Wolf Saint Magic smiled gently at her, totally different from his usual gloomy temperament. The Fox Saint Law's pupils constricted, and he opened his mouth wanting to say something urgently. However, the Wolf Saint Law's gaze forced him to swallow his words. Wolf Shengfa leaped and quickly moved to the other side. At the same time, Blood Sacrifice's dinosaur-like giant body flew away. It was extremely agile as it sped off in another direction. You injured the future mistress of our imperial palace. Still want to run? Suddenly, a tender voice resounded from the corner. A slender figure quickly rushed in the direction of the blood sacrifice. Following that, countless young men and women dressed in black and white robes surrounded them from all directions, each of them brimming with a murderous aura. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 1,000 people. The moment this group of people quickly surrounded him, Lang Xingfa's expression changed drastically. He looked in the direction of the Fox Saint technique, and with a move of his feet, he was about to give chase. However, he was intercepted by 5 youths. And on the other side, being carried by Xue Si, the Fox Saint technique that was moving swiftly on the Miao tribe's small path, was also stopped by a powerful and vigorous attack. Xue Si was forced to stop. Chapter 30:16. Fox Sacred Law's face was as pale as paper. Bit by bit, she shifted her vision towards the group of people who were obstructing her. Black and white-colored long robes. Their ages were all on the younger side. Probably the oldest was not older than 24 or 25. But every single one of them exuded a unique aura which made one's hair stand on end. Although Fox Sacred Law had just revived, not too long ago. But looking at these people's dressing and characteristics, in his mind, there were 2 words that immediately appeared: Imperial Palace. Yes, Imperial Palace. These people, they were all Imperial Palace's disciples. Only the Emperor Palace could nurture such a terrifying disciple. Only the Imperial Palace could have such a powerful aura. The number 1 palace in the world was definitely not an undeserved reputation. The Overlord said, everyone from Abysmal Palace are to be killed without mercy. A cold and elegant voice was heard from the front. Fox Sacred Law immediately raised her eyes and looked over. That was a tall lady dressed in a black and white-colored long robe. The lady's features were exquisite and extremely beautiful. Her expression was icy cold and filled with majesty. But between her brows, there was a glint of melancholy which couldn't be dispelled. Her hands were placed behind her back as she stood in front of the blood sacrifice with an outstanding temperament. Apparently, she was the leader of these Imperial Palace's disciples. And at this moment, the commotion here had already attracted Yan Xiaoyi and the others' attention. The Imperial Palace's disciples coming out in full force was a huge surprise to the few of them. Following the direction of the Imperial Palace's disciples' encirclement, Yan Xiaoyi bore the brunt of it and followed up. She had the guts to collude with the Miao tribe, bringing Abysmal Palace's people to hurt her Qing Luo to such a state when the Overlord wasn't around. Not a single one of those Abysmal Palace's people could escape, especially Fox Sacred Law, who was the initiator. Not to mention escaping. When Yan Xiaoyi and the others chased up, their vision fell onto that beautiful lady. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes lit up slightly. Beiyuan, it's you? Tang Beiyuan's beautiful eyes lifted up slightly, and on seeing Yan Xiaoyi and the others, the icy cold expression on her face softened a little. I'm sorry, I was too slow when I went to mobilize the Imperial Palace's disciples, which caused Mistress to suffer such a serious injury. I'm sorry for making all of you worried. It's good that you're here. It's good that you're here. Peach's eyes sparkled as she stared at Tang Beiyuan. She seemed to be able to glean some gossip and secrets about the imperial palace from Tang Beiyuan. Yan Shaoyi rolled her eyes and tugged at Peach. Be more reserved. Dmo Xian's appearance coupled with the timely arrival of the imperial palace's disciples. Everyone's tensed emotions finally relaxed. Dmo Xian seemed to have a kind of magical power. A way for people to see him. They couldn't help but believe that he would be able to protect everyone's magic power. Cough, cough. Xiaba and Ling Yan felt as if their bodies had been disassembled and then put back together again. Just the slightest movement would cause them a heart-wrenching pain. They struggled to stand up from the huge pit. Blood rolled down from their bodies. Their bodies swayed unsteadily. Damn it, that scoundrel actually managed to injure us. Ling Yan clenched his teeth in dissatisfaction. He could not believe that he, who was known as the King of Destruction, was beaten to such a state by a little girl who had not even grown her hair yet. If he returned to the underworld palace like this, how could he have the face to continue living? Bow. Before Ling Yan could finish his cursing, suddenly a whirlwind swept past. It directly landed a palm on his face. This palm did not contain any profound energy, but it was full of strength. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.